Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and Matt Turner. It is a historic day. Would you like to know why it is a historic day today?
Why it's a historic on the day that we're recording, like to actual today?
Actual 13th of March today.
I don't know, my man. Why don't you enlighten me and our fantastic friends and family of the Stardom Cast?
This might be, Matt Turner, the only time that I have predicted a winner for the Cinderella tournament, and by the next week they are still in the tournament. Matt, Hanan time has arrived.
Don't say that too loud, my man, because you might put the ultimate jinx. I mean, she is clearly, she got over, obviously we'll talk about it. She was over like crazy in that Corkin match with Mirai, and it just seems like all of the steam is with Hanan. So I know I texted you, I think it was the next day. Yeah, it was the next day. And you sent me a hashtag Team Hanan. So I know you're super excited for one Hanan to see how far she makes it. And I think I just realized when I was at the gym this morning, I sent you a text message that I believe those finals of the Cinderella tournament, as of we're recording, is a week today. It's the 20th on a Wednesday, which is kind of random. So we're going to have to kind of figure out, maybe by the end of this episode, we'll figure out when we're going to record. Maybe if we do record it on a Thursday and just let our Patreon members know it's going to drop a little bit later. So I'm not sure what you want to do, my man.
It makes most sense to leave it a day because there's no real point doing a preview that's then going to come out the day after the final actually airs. So the chances are what we'll do is we'll watch the Cinderella tournament final with all of you lovely people on Wednesday, and then we'll publish our review for our patrons slightly later on the Thursday, but still early and ad-free, and then we'll publish it for everybody else on the Friday morning as per usual. So yeah, I think it makes most sense. It seems to be something of a theme at the moment. This tournament seems to have gone incredibly quickly, which is great, obviously, but this seems to be a theme that's emerging after the announcement that they're shortening the 5-star Grand Prix dates as well, which I'll be talking a little bit about very, very shortly. But Matt Turner, Stardom aside, how the devil are you?
I'm great. Would you like to hear the Matt Turner blimp of the week, my man?
Always.
Oh, or the fumble, the whatever you want to call it. So, okay. So I guess you can tell it's getting WrestleMania season and I'm getting excited. So I'm in church on Sunday. The pastor is doing his sermon. He does say this is going to be a little bit interactive. It's going to be almost like a pop quiz. And what he said he was going to do is he was going to yell out a slogan, and then we would yell back what the product was or the company was. For example, he said, Breakfast of Champions. And I go, oh, Wheaties. And he said, just do it. And I said, oh, Nike. And there was like 4 or 5 of these that I got all of them right. I was very proud of myself. Now I know this is church. I know this is church and it's a sermon, which was fantastic. I know eventually it's going to go biblical. And then he goes, John 3:16. And then I go, Stone Cold. And then as soon as I said I got the LD out and cold, I literally put my head down in the pew. I was like, oh my, only me. John 3:16. Stone Cold. I was like, oh, geez. So, yeah, my man. So that was my little fumble for the week that I don't think anybody really caught other than me. And I'm like, that'll make good podcasting material. But no, I'm great, my man. My weekend was insanely jam-packed. Saturday, I woke up early to cover the first night of the Cinderella tournament. And then after I went to the gym, we myself and my wife and her family, we drove up to New Jersey, which is about 25 minutes away from where I live, to celebrate her grandmother's 100th birthday party. So that was nice. Then I came home, packed my bags, drove an hour to go wrestle. And then as soon as I came home from wrestling, ate, showered, and then covered night 2 of the Cinderella tournament. So that was my Saturday, my man. But it was jam-packed. It was fantastic. Obviously, the 2 Cinderella shows were great. Wrestling was really good. That was the first time myself and Andy Header have teamed in about 5 or 6 months, where I thought it went off really, really well. The crowd was really into it. It was a packed crowd. And then it's always nice to spend time with family, especially when you're celebrating somebody that hits 100 years old, which is that's a great milestone. But yeah, blessed, really, really good weekend. Got a lot done, got a lot accomplished. How about you, my friend? What's new with one Mr. Rob Goodwin?
Very little, my friend. I'll be perfectly honest. It's been a very low-key busy week, but it's been one of those busy weeks where I can't actually recall doing anything. You do lots of little things, the jobs that need doing and stuff like that, and that seems to have been the order of play, let's say, this weekend. Of course, it was Mother's Day here in the UK. I know that it's a completely different time in the US. Am I right in thinking it's somewhere around June for you?
It's usually the second week of May.
Oh, okay, so I'm nowhere near. All right, but yes. So we celebrated that on Sunday. We're going out for a meal on Thursday, going for a lovely Indian curry. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, other than that, and other than cramming my time full of wrestling, finally watching the end of AEW Revolution, watching both nights of the Stardom Cinderella tournament, it's been a hyped wrestling week, my friend. It really has.
There's a lot of great wrestling. Again, between you have WrestleMania coming up, which is always huge in its own right, but then you're adding The Rock, coming back to wrestling, and then AEW, their next pay-per-view, the one in April, looks like it's going to be Ospreay and Danielson, which will be all sorts of great. Obviously, Stardom's terrific. That's what we're here to talk about. Not only were these 2 shows great, but they literally set up so much great stuff. And I kind of made the joke, and I put it up on Twitter, that we talk about all these great rookies that are currently in Stardom, but the best rookie might be the one behind the scenes not taking any bumps. Because, again, we're going to get into it, but yeah, there's a lot of great wrestling stuff, not only just the Stardom side, but stuff going on with WWE, stuff going on with AEW as well. So it's a really, really good time to be a fan of professional wrestling.
It really is. Absolutely. And with that, Matt, I mean, we've mentioned a little bit about AEW. We are going to be talking a little bit about Mercedes Moné and her return to wrestling, which, if you are as you listen to this, should have happened at Big Business up in Boston, Scotty Edwards' neck of the woods. But before we do that, Matt, I think it's about time we talk about what is coming up on our Patreon this week.
Absolutely. The Patreon this week, our alternate commentary that we released was for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, as Momo Watanabe defends against one Jungle Kiona. So that was a fantastic match to call back with you, sir. And then next week, our alternate commentary will be Momo Watanabe defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Utami Hayashishita. That match was from 2019 in New York City, the last time Stardom ran a full show over here in the States. And then also we will be releasing the, what is it that I did? For the $10 tier, for the Rossy Vice tier, I compared and contrast what show is better. Stardom World Climax Night 1 versus Stardom World Climax Night 2 back from March 2022. That should be up on your Patreon feed sometime this weekend, either Friday or Saturday. So what I would suggest, if you want to get in as much Stardom love as humanly possible, I would suggest that you listen to just myself, because it's a solo podcast, talk about which show I like better from back in 2022. And again, that show is going to be released more than likely on Saturday, the 16th. And then you log on Amazon.com or the app, and then you go buy your version of Chasing the Dream by my good friend, Rob Goodwin, because that will be available to order on Amazon this week. And I'm super excited, my friend. I'm super excited to order it. I'm super excited to shamelessly plug it and as many times as possible. And I'm super excited to see your success from that book, because I am sure, 100% sure that that's going to be an absolute slam dunk home run for you.
Thank you very much. No pressure or anything. But yes, that is our Austin 316 day. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights, and missed deadlines and stuff like that. But it's come together relatively quickly the last couple of bits. So fingers crossed, it all goes without a hitch. It probably won't because it is pro wrestling after all. But there we are. And again, thank you to everyone who subscribes over at patreon.com/the Stardomcast for all your support. It truly does humble us every single day that people listen to us. Full stop. Never mind pay for extras and things like that. So thank you to all of you. Let's kick into some news because there's been lots of little nuggets around the Stardomverse these last couple of weeks. However, the first thing I want to talk about, not Stardom related at all really, but I just wanted to mention the Stardomcast passes their respects to the family of Yutaka Yoshi, who passed away at the age of 50. He was a former IWGP Tag Team Champion with Hiroshi Tanahashi, former All Japan World Tag Team Champion with Aki Bono. He wrestled a match on the 10th of March in Gunma, got backstage and was taken ill, was taken to the hospital where his health quickly declined. Unfortunately, he passed away. It appears, and again, I don't want to speculate, but it appears that the cause of death was arteriosclerosis. But obviously, it's not an age at all, really. 50 years old, and we just want to pass on our thoughts, condolences, and everything else to his family and friends. So rest in peace, Yutaka Yoshi. Not the nicest way to start a podcast, but I did think we should just pass on our respects, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I did read about that the other day, and just sad at the age of 50, and then after a wrestling show. So again, you don't know. I mean, you had the speculation of what happened there, but you don't know if there was a bump in the match or if he went into the match with a pre-existing condition or if something happened. So you never know. So, folks, it's just, as I'm, going to be creeping up here on 42 in the next few months, it's something that you should go to the doctor regularly to get checked up on, because you just don't know what you have going on, in your system. Heaven forbid you do have some sort of disease or a cancer or something like that. I think that everybody needs to go to the doctor and get checked up on once a year just to be on the safe side, because we want to stay on this beautiful planet as long as we possibly can.
Absolutely. In a little bit more positive news, I don't know if you know this, ladies and gentlemen, but we are but mere weeks away from Philly Mania, and we have some more information and announcements from the world of Joshi. First things first, Stardom Show American Dream 2024 in the Keystone State. There haven't been any more talent announcements as of yet, but I do expect them to come post Cinderella tournament final, which we've already discussed will be a week today on the 20th. Obviously, we now have a red belt match locked in for that show, which we'll talk about later. But something that we do have is a way for you to watch if you cannot get to Philadelphia. It has been announced that it will stream live on Fight TV, $24.99 of your English pounds. I don't know what the equivalent is in dollars. I'm sorry, I should have done my research, but it is good news that if you can't be there, if you can't come and see us and see Stardom in the ECW arena, then you can watch. It's going to be at 8 a.m., I believe. I believe that is Eastern. No, not Eastern time.
No,
Pacific
that's
time.
your time.
That's our time. Is it?
No way, because it's because it's streaming live, so it's 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Eastern time.
So is that 8 a.m. Pacific?
No, because Pacific is 3 hours behind, so it would be noon. Maybe 8 a.m. is the Japanese time?
8 a.m. might be the Japanese time. That would make more sense. Yeah, because I was like, no, English time, we're ahead of you. That's 8 p.m. Maybe that's what it means. Definitely says AM.
I think that's you. I think you're right. I think it would be 8 p.m. your time, because it's, again, this is streaming live as it happens on Fight TV. So this would be, again, 3 o'clock our time, Eastern Standard Time. Now, Rob, keep in mind that even though you're 5 hours ahead, you're watching this at 3 o'clock. So I'm just letting you know.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. I do appreciate it, because even though I will be with you, the chances are I will somehow still find a way to be late. So yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully a few more announcements will be forthcoming from that. Just to remind you, at the moment, Mayu Iwatani, Momo Watanabe, Sayori Starlight Kid, Mina Shirakawa, Azumi, and Momo Kogo have all been announced for that show. Speaking of Momo Kogo, who, bless her, really can't seem to catch a break at the moment. She returned from injury, or poor physical health anyway, on the first night of the Cinderella, on the 9th of March, in a losing effort to Xena. And then, unfortunately, the We Are Stardom Twitter account announced that due to an injury sustained at Korakuen Hall on March the 10th, Momo Kogo will be out of action for the foreseeable future. Horrible news for Momo Kogo. It really is. Having just returned from an injury, having, a really unfortunate record when it comes to ill health and things like that, to then be out with another injury just a day after your return, it's got to really feel like a kick to the stomach, Matt.
Yeah, God bless her, because she seemed so happy when she came back. And I mean, she was in great, she's always in great shape, but she was really, you can tell she really put a lot of effort into getting back in the best health and shape possible. New gear, she looked great. She literally came out of the box, blitzing Xena early on in the match. She looked great this whole entire weekend. And then you find out a day or two later that she got injured. I don't think it said when or where or what happened. Just said she's going to be out for the foreseeable future. So it's not like it's one of these Utami things or one of these Suzuki things where it was ill health and they just sat out the weekend to get better. It's just, they don't know really what it is. Maybe they're not going to speculate, and they don't know how much longer that she's going to be out for. So Momo's been having a series of health issues. I think she has, is it Crohn's disease or Graves' disease, and again, I think it's one of those. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. I think she has something like that she easily gets injured or she gets sick or something like that. So I just feel bad for her, because I'm a huge fan of Momo Kogo, and I was there in the ECW arena for that 4-way that she had with Julia, Deonna Purrazzo, and Giselle Shaw. And Momo Kogo was insanely over with the crowd. There was 2 people in front of me that had like the Momo Kogo towels. I thought, out of all the talent that's on the show, Tanahashi, Alex Shelley, Deonna Purrazzo, Julia, that it was shocking, but in a good way, of just how over and how much the crowd loved Momo Kogo. And if this is something where she continues to get injured and she can't be in the ring that much, Rob, I hope Stardom does something where they keep her on the roster, either as a trainer or, we talk about it all the time. They need English commentary. She's very, she has English down probably better than me and you. No offense. But I would love to see her, do something with the English commentary, even on like the quote unquote house shows, where it's like maybe they can dub it over, a few days later with her doing the English commentary. But I think she's just somebody that just somebody that loves wrestling. She seems like somebody that everybody would just want to be around. She just seems like the nicest person, and just the fact that she just climbs so high only to get knocked back down just kind of breaks your heart. So again, it's we wish her well and love to see her get back in the ring. But if this is something that keeps on happening and physically she just can't perform anymore, I would just love for her to be a part of Stardom in one way or another. Again, hopefully in an English commentary role. But I think I speak on behalf of everyone for this podcast and all of the fans. We say, get well soon, Momo Kogo.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Graves' disease that she has, Matt, which unfortunately was the same illness that afflicted Aki Asakawa, I believe. It's obviously not a nice disease. I don't know a great deal about it, but I know it can be extremely debilitating. So fingers crossed, this is just a small speed bump, and she will be back sooner rather than later. But again, our thoughts and prayers go out to Momo Kogo. On a slightly happier note, just going back to Philadelphia for a second, we have 2 big announcements coming in terms of that week. First things first, as though Spark Joshi couldn't load their show on the 7th of April anymore, having already announced Mayu, Mina Shirakawa, Azumi, and Starlight Kid on that show. Sayori, was announced for the GCW versus the World show, which is on Thursday, April 4th, which is the same night as the Stardom show at 11:59. And that in itself was enough for me and Matt to buy tickets, just the fact that Syuri is on that show. Then it was announced who she will be facing. So for the JCW World Championship, it is going to be Syuri versus the champion Masha Slamovich. Now, Matt Turner, I was happy just going to this show because Syuri and Astronauts, to be fair, are also on it, and Astronauts are a fantastic tag team, but Syuri was on this show. To then have her facing Masha Slamovich, I think they've taken basically the perfect matchup and made it real.
This literally is Joshi Mania. It's almost at a point. Again, I've seen every WrestleMania, pretty much. I've seen every WrestleMania ever, and I've seen every WrestleMania live as it happened since WrestleMania 12, March 31st, 1996. I'll never forget that date. I literally booked my whole entire year around WrestleMania. These two WrestleMania cards, Rob, don't get me wrong, they look good. Probably like the least important thing on our docket. Now, granted, our docket's full, and I'll go over the docket because you texted me yesterday. Was like, what does our schedule look like? And I'm like, I literally know it by heart in the top of my head because I have everything saved on my phone, and I'll probably print everything out in a week or two. But it's like, there's so much great stuff on this show, and I want to give a shout out to, I believe it was Ethan Black, who just is phenomenal whenever there's really good news or something awesome happening in the world of Joshi and Stardom. He usually sends me, you, and the Stardom cast, our Twitter page, usually sends us a message. So if I look down on my phone and it says message Ethan Black and it's sent to me, you, and the podcast, it's usually something really good. So I saw it come across the other day and I opened it up and it said Syuri versus GCW. And I was like, yeah, we can't. I didn't even know what the date and time was. I'm like, we can't go to the show. We are so jam loaded from Thursday until Sunday. And for you, Monday, you're adding a day on because why not? But I'm like, we're so loaded, like we can't go to the show. Then it's like Thursday at 11:59. I'm like, well, maybe we could. I'm like, all right, let me see what Rob wants to do. So I sent you the picture and I was like, hey, we just got sent this. You're like, awesome. Sherry's on the show. We definitely need to go. And I was like, okay. Before I go buy tickets, Rob, I want to let you know what's going on Thursday. We were driving in the morning from my house to the ECW arena. We have the Stardom show. Then right after that, we have cheap plug. We have the live Stardom Cast podcast. See, I'm excited. The live Stardom Cast podcast at Jack's Tap Room and Steaks Bar and Grill, located 5 minutes away from the ECW arena, starting at 7:00. So we have that from 7 until ? And then this show starts, let's just call it like we see it, starts at midnight. So I'm like, if you want to do this, and you text me back almost challenging me. Because I started driving and then I saw my thing came up and said, hey, brother, if you don't want to go to the show, we don't have to go to the show. And I was like, that damn Rob Goodwin. Is he challenging me? So I literally, as soon as I didn't even get out of my car, as soon as I got into my driveway after I came home from work, because it was stewing on my 20-minute drive home in my head, I was like, I think Rob doesn't even realize that he's challenging me here to try to do this marathon. And I said, you want to go? And like, only if you want to. I'm like, guess what? We're going. I already bought the ticket. So there you go. So folks, again, to give you an idea, and this is just day one, and I'm going to go over our entire schedule. It actually thins out when it comes to the weekend. So our schedule goes, myself and Rob Goodwin, because I've had a lot of people message me like, hey, you going to go to any shows WrestleMania weekend? We should hang out. Yes, we're going to several shows. So here's what's happening. So, and again, Rob's going to forget this, so I'm just going to literally copy and paste the text message I sent him yesterday just to remind him, even though he's going to be with me arm in arm pretty much the entire weekend. So Thursday, 3:00, we will be at the ECW arena for the Stardom show. And then we will be doing the live Stardom Cast podcast. Hopefully by the end of the week, we will know how long we have to go for this show. I'm guessing it's probably going to go 7 to 9:30, 10, something like that. And then the idea, Rob, what I would like to do is check into our hotel room, maybe get about a 20, 30-minute nap, and then drive over to where the collective is, because then at midnight, we'll be watching the GCW versus the World show that does have Masha Slamovich versus Syuri, which is a dream match. It's an absolute dream match. When Syuri was announced for this show, speculation was, who is she going to wrestle? And a lot of people said that's the ultimate dream match, was her to wrestle Masha Slamovich. Masha and Miyu Amasaki earlier this year, I think it was the 3rd or the 4th of January in Corkin Hall, had a match of the year contender. Miyu Yamashita works a very heavy striking style like Syuri, so it's going to be a great match. So anywho, so we have that show. We'll probably get back to the hotel room I'm going to guess around 3 o'clock in the morning, give or take. And then we have WrestleCon that starts at 11 o'clock on Friday. And then once that's over, we have a little bit of a break because then we have the Ring of Honor show that I believe is main evented by Athena versus Hikaru Shida. So that's going to be really good. And then it slows down. Then Saturday, if we do have the time, we do have 3-day passes to WrestleCon. So we might hit up WrestleCon in the morning. Then it's off to NXT. And then after NXT, we go to WrestleMania Night 1. And then Sunday will be, again, if we have time, WrestleCon in the morning. Then myself and Rob will trek over to the Monster Factory for the Spark Joshi show. And then after the meet and greets and after me and Rob get to meet Mayu and possibly pass out, we will then head over to the Lincoln Financial Field for WrestleMania Night 2. So we're just wondering if by possible chance, if we could pack any more stuff into this weekend. I did see CM Punk was doing a signing on that Sunday, and I'm like, I have not talked to Punk in over 10 years, and I would just love to go up to him and just say, hey, thanks for training me to be a pro wrestler. But the fact that I'm picking to meet Mayu over that just goes to show you how much I love Stardom, and I love everything that's going on. But it's literally at a point where I'm constantly checking my phone. It's like, is there any way we can add anything more onto this show? So you did tell me back in the fall when this was our plan that, like, I want to do NXT, I want to do WrestleMania, I want to do as much as possible. Partner, other than sleep, we are going to be doing as much as possible. So, man, I'm super excited. You're definitely going to get the most bang for your buck when you're coming over to the City of Brotherly Love, just coming up in about 3 weeks. So, again, folks, anybody that is going to any of these shows, please hit us up. We would love to chat with you, have a drink with you, take a picture with you. And I'm going to put this out there. If anybody, by chance, has any one of Rob's books and you bring him to the ECW arena and have him sign it there, I will pass out. I think that would be the greatest thing in the world. I love seeing my friends succeed. And there's not many more people that I know in this wrestling business that are more talented than one Rob Goodwin. So by all means, folks, go purchase Rob's book, Chasing the Dream and Living the Dream, and have Rob sign it right in the ECW arena, because that would really just make my day.
Well, thank you very much. To be honest, I blame a lot of the inherent tiredness that we're going to have on Spark Joshi, because they sort of just rode in with this random show that had Mayu Azumi, Starlight, and Mina Shirakawa on it. Then they announced Konami on top of all that.
And Aja Kong.
And Aja Kong, exactly. Which is just utter carnage. That show's going to be incredible. I'm looking forward to that. And obviously, just again, Konami's also been added to the judging panel for the tryouts that are going to be taking place just before that. So yeah, really, really exciting times. I'm very, very excited, especially as we are just under a month away, like quite a way under a month away, which is quite scary in some ways, but very, very exciting as well. We think we're going to be busy, but good grief, Stardom wrestlers are also going to be busy over the next 2 weeks, or over those 2 weeks anyway. Aside from apparently wrestling every single Philly show that they can, Stardom is also set to take part in New Japan's Wrestling World 2024 in Taiwan on Sunday, April 14th, which is obviously the week after WrestleMania week. This is on top of Stardom participation on Windy City Riot on April 12th, where Azumi and Mina Shirakawa are scheduled to appear. So more Stardom representation on New Japan cards, Matt, and I think it's fair to say that New Japan has sort of been stuck in a rut lately. I think that's probably fair to say, but the exposure that Stardom wrestlers will get from wrestling there, I think has got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, they haven't announced any talent for that show, have they? Like Stardom talent?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think so. But yeah, I mean, again, more Stardom talent on these New Japan shows. And I think it's something that New Japan desperately needs. New Japan is definitely kind of in a state of flux right now. That's just, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact how great New Japan was from 2012 up until pandemic. And then you add in the fact over the last handful of years, they lost an AJ Styles, a Kenny Omega, a Jay White, now Will Ospreay, an Okada. Tanahashi, bless him, is doing as much as he can in the ring, but his body is just so broken down from those wars over the past decade. And they're just kind of in between getting ready to create some new stars. And I think with them having the hottest wrestling promotion, in my opinion, in the world, Stardom, having some of that talent on the New Japan shows is kind of going to give them a little bit of shot in the arm. And and this talent's ready made. We saw with Mayu and Mina just a few weeks ago for the IWGP Women's Championship match. They're ready made. And then last year we had Mercedes Moné defending the IWGP Championship against Izumi and Hazuki. Obviously Mercedes is a huge, huge star, one of the biggest women's wrestling stars in the history of pro wrestling. And then you had Hazuki and Izumi here, an absolute home run. So I think it's a smart move on everybody's. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for New Japan to get something different on their shows that may help boost some views, whether it's in the seats, whether it's on New Japan World live as it happens, or New Japan World after it happens. And then, to have Stardom wrestlers on these bigger shows where instead of wrestling in front of, maybe 1,500 people, they might be wrestling in front of, 4,000 or 5,000 people. So that's going to help Stardom out. So it's a win-win for Stardom. It's a win-win for New Japan. And most importantly, Rob, it's a win-win for us wrestling fans that more Stardom on bigger shows. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that is quite interesting is, yes, there will be Stardom talent on that show. However, Stardom have got a back-to-back weekend that weekend. So on the 12th, the same day as New Japan when Windy City Riot, we have Stardom's first Korakuen Hall show of April. In fact, I believe it's their only Korakuen, unless I am very much mistaken. Yeah, it's their only Korakuen, so that's going to be on the 12th. And then we've also got on the 13th, Stardom are in Numazu, in Shizuoka, and then on the 14th, they're in Hamamatsu. So I can't see there being much talent that is going to Taiwan, especially as, you're not going to have Azumi and Mina for at least two of these shows. They can't really afford to spare anyone else. Maybe Mayu will go as IWGP Women's Champion. Maybe that will be where she makes another defense. We've already got a defense locked in, and what a defense that is going to be, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yes, I did see, I think it was Armani Shoe Exchange, who I must admit really did make me laugh, put on Twitter about how people were moaning about Stardom wrestling too many shows last year, which, they did wrestle too much, and the proof was in the injuries. But then are getting super, super excited about the amount of shows that we can see Stardom wrestlers on. So I just thought that was quite entertaining. Aside from that, speaking of Armani Shoe Exchange, it's been a fantastic weekend for Stardom in terms of the Cinderella tournament. Lots and lots of good buzz around them. And Armani Shoe Exchange is always good for a stat, has put something on Twitter. Up 45% from last year's Cinderella tournament opening weekend. So almost 50% up, and then 49% up compared to the 2022 5-star Grand Prix opening weekend. So, in the wake of what could have been a very, very difficult time with Stardom, and what is still a difficult time for Stardom, let's not throw a veil over the fact that we know some talent are going to be leaving at the end of the next 2 weeks, one of which it was pretty much confirmed after the Korakuen Hall show. There are so many positives, and actually, Stardom are producing some of the best shows they've produced in years.
Yeah, I've noticed the production quality, especially on the opening night of the Cinderella tournament. I mean, they have always had really good production, but it really seems like the camera angles are a little bit better. It seems like there was more pyro. The Videotron, the Titantron, they've really updated the graphics there. And considering the fact that Saida, her Titantron, I don't know if you noticed, after she won her match, when she walked back, it was a gorilla on like a circus cart with a whole bunch of fruit and bananas, which I thought was great. But yeah, the production's gone well. It seems like these shows are getting up quicker on Stardom World. It just seems like that. Again, we talked about this about a month or so ago, when Rossy announced that he was not leaving, but that Rossy, when he got fired, let go, whatever you want to call it, and then he basically announced that he was doing his own wrestling company. This was going to push Stardom and Bushiroad to put more money into the product, and we're already seeing that just a few weeks out. So good on them. Good on them. Again, we mentioned, we were asked come up with positives, for this split. And there's one right there. We've already seen the proof in the pudding. We've seen that the booking committee, as young and raw and as green as they say in the wrestling business are, they really given us some top-notch shows. I think they sold out 3 of the last 4 house shows, and then these 2 Cinderella shows were done really well. And I think the other show we're going to talk about, the one from the 3rd of March, that looked like it was pretty jam-packed as well. So Stardom seems to be doing very, very well, and the fact that they're putting more money into the production quality, it just, it makes you feel better about when you're going to buy a ticket. And not only you're going to get the best wrestling product out there, because Stardom is the best wrestling out there, but you're going to get a production that's second to none. So, yeah, really, really exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be perfectly honest, Stardom seems to be taking steps in the right direction, which includes the fact that they announced during the first night of the Cinderella that the 2024 5-star Grand Prix will be shortened massively. One of the huge things to come out of 2023 was wrestlers, especially Julia, being very vocal about the length of the tournament and it being unnecessarily stretched over a longer time span. Well, Stardom have heard, and they've shortened it so that it is only going to run from August 10th in Yokohama Budokan until August 31st in Musashino Forest Plaza. So a massively shortened tournament, Matt, just 3 weeks between the opening night and the final, which is significantly better. The chances are that we are going to have more shows in that time if they're going to have the 10-person per block again, which I'm hoping they do. It worked last time, at least. But if we do it more like the G1, where, well, let me rephrase that. The G1 up until maybe G130, where we had one night as Block A, one night as Block B, one night as Block A, one night as Block B. That could work if you're going to do it with Red Block and Blue Block, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it's shortened. 3 weeks is like, ooh, because we always say it's the most wonderful time of the year. So 5-6 weeks I thought would have been good, but the fact that they shortened this to 3 weeks, it's like, wow, we really have to be on our game, my man. We really got to be up ready to rock and roll for this for 3 weeks. Again, it's going to shorten the injuries. You're probably going to see, instead of, obviously you have your night one. I don't know if they'll probably do night 1, night 2 back to back, which I really, really enjoyed in 2023. Keep forgetting we're in 2024 there, Matt. And 2023 was the first year in a while that they didn't do the back-to-back nights. And I loved it when they did it in 2021 and 2022, because those 2 shows back-to-back were some of the best shows of the year, not just in Stardom, but in all of wrestling. So my guess is they're going to do back-to-back nights to open up the tournament, and then probably their Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows, their weekend shows, instead of having like 2 Red Star block matches, 1 Blue Block match, and then 4 or 5 random tag matches, it's probably going to be all tournament matches. So that would be my guess. You're literally going to get the most bang for your buck if you subscribe to Stardom World and you wait for the pay-per-views to come on Stardom World, because all of those shows, I'm assuming that they're going to be, 90% of those matches are going to be 5-star matches. And judging by anything we've seen for the last 5 or 6 years from the 5-star, they're all going to be slam banger, fantastic matches. Now, Rob, I wanted to kind of bring up a point here with the G1. Oh yeah, the G1, the 5-star only being 3 weeks. Do you think that we're going to see maybe some outside talent in this tournament, like maybe somebody from an AEW, maybe like Asari, maybe like Chihiro Hashimoto, something like that? Because if it was 6-7 weeks, you're tying down that talent for a great deal of time. But do you think maybe we'll see somebody from America or Mexico, like a Steph Falker, obviously, who we'll be talking much about in the show? Because maybe that's something they were looking to do. Like, let's shorten the tournament. Who can we lock down an outsider for those dates? And then maybe they talk to CMLL or AEW, or again, Sari and Chihiro Hashimoto, both working for basically not under contract, but basically freelance work. They said, well, maybe if we shorten the tournament down from 6 weeks to 3 weeks, it's easier to get this talent in the tournament. So do you think we'll see somebody like a non-contract Stardom wrestler come in to be a part of this tournament? That's kind of like a big name.
It wouldn't surprise me. But I think all this hinges on just how many wrestlers leave at the end of March. I think if you have got, 8, 9, even 10 wrestlers leaving, then you're going to have to. You're going to have to bring names in. However, if there's only 4 or 5 names that leave and, you haven't got huge names leaving. Obviously, Julia we know is leaving. We know at least one more big talent is leaving. We know that Mayu, the rumblings are that Mayu wants to leave. Whether she does or not, I don't know. So, all this affects the 5-star Grand Prix. If you've still got a lot of your main event talent intact, then why not just give the opportunity to someone else? Give the opportunity to a Hanan, give the opportunity to a Sayurida. However, if you are looking at a Chihiro Hashimoto, who I'm a huge, huge fan of, or a Sari, then I'm absolutely fine with that. I think Outside Talent has done well in the 5-star previously. I'm certainly not against it. What I am against is that being used at the expense of a Stardom talent, especially, someone that you've been pushing. So, for example, a Sayurida who has been, sort of building up victories, building up a little bit of fan support. If she then misses out on the 5-star this year because of, Chihiro Hashimoto or Sari, I feel like it's back to square one for her, which would be very, very sad. All of this is my big roundabout way of saying I've got no idea, Matt. To be perfectly honest.
Sometimes I have good questions. What I'll usually do is I'll start texting you, and I'm like, that's a good podcast question. So, yeah, that's one of the first thing I noticed with this, since it being 3 weeks. And I know that, again, there was rumblings last year that there was going to be some sort of talent exchange between AEW and Stardom. Specifically one, again, it's rumors. The one big name that was rumored out was Chris Statlander. So my theory would be like, well, if it's only 3 weeks, that Tony Khan and AEW, would be able to. They wouldn't, if it was, she's only going over here to Japan for 3 weeks, it wouldn't be as a massive of a blow if it was 6 or 7 or 8 weeks or so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I absolutely see your point. Like, it would be great to have a Steph Falker and a Sari, but are you going to do that at the expense of one Saida? Obviously, I think me and you being massive Saida fans, we'd rather see Saida in the tournament, but maybe we can have both. But at the same time, this tournament is taking place at the end of the summer, which is August. So there's a good chance that Saida will be defending the WWE World Championship at SummerSlam in Cleveland, Ohio, my friend. So that's one way of looking at it as well.
Yes, quite possibly. After her 5-star match with Seth at WrestleMania. Just looking at, and again, a big thing is the size of the field. If they're going to do 13, 14 person blocks again, then you are going to have to enlist other talent. However, if you're only going to have, say 8 people in a block, which, they did religiously for 3 or 4 years. It was always 8 people in a block or 7 people in a block. I believe until 2018. I could be wrong. So, it's going to be interesting to cut it down from. So in 2022, the tournament ran from the 30th of July to the 1st of October, which is just over 2 months. And then in 2023, it was the 23rd of July to the 30th of September. So again, just over 2 months. To cut the tournament from just over 2 months to 3 weeks, that is significant cutting. So I'm eager to see what they're going to do with it, whether we're going to have less people in a block, whether we are going to have shows with just 5-star matches on them, or whether, because they're going to have to take wrestlers' fitness into account. I think last year brought that into sharp relief. So I'm really intrigued to see where Stardom go in terms of that. And again, who wins this tournament? We don't know who is going to be a part of this tournament as of yet. We don't know who is on the way out to Rossy Vice Wrestling. So it's all very, very exciting. A couple of couple more things just before I throw to you, because I know you want to talk about something rather boss that is going to be happening later on tonight. I don't know if you read this story, this interview with Sayaka Kurora, Matt. It was put on Twitter, and I'm really sorry. I've actually chopped the Twitter name off the top of it because I've cropped it, and I can't actually remember who translated it. So if this is you, I apologize profusely. I do like to usually give credit to people who've put stuff on Twitter, but I don't know why I've cropped this off. If I find out who it was, I will post it on Twitter. But in an interview with Encount, Sayaka Kurora revealed that she only saw wrestling for the first time in September 2022. So that was her first wrestling match. She was going to school for art and working a job to help pay tuition. She received a ticket for a Stardom show at the job and decided to go. The show was the 5-star Grand Prix show on September 24th. She seemingly enjoyed it so much that she bought a ticket to the 5-star finals on October 1st, naming Julie versus Tam as the match she enjoyed the most. She made the decision from there that she wanted to wrestle and made sure to try out audition with Stardom. Sayaka put in the work, and just over a year after she saw her first ever wrestling show, she made her debut on December 25th. That's a pretty cool story, isn't it, Matt?
You never know who you're going to inspire when you're doing pro wrestling. And when I did hear about that, when I did read it, it reminded me of the generational struggle match, that 8-person tag match from Cork and Hall from last year. When all the wrestlers were coming out, there was like 5 or 6 little girls, probably between the ages 5 and 7, that were all waving at the Stardom wrestlers, that were all like excited to see them. And it's like, you don't know. And I know we always have the joke, you don't know who they're going to grow up to be. They're going to grow up to be Yuzuki. I know that's kind of our joke, and I didn't even think I was going to go there until I went there. For all of our fantastic Patreon listeners on their alternate commentary, for some, it's just a bit that somehow makes its way whenever we see somebody young in the crowd. Me and Rob just point out that person grows up to be Yuzuki. But anywho, getting back on track. You never know who you're going to inspire, whether these kids 5, 6, 7 years old, or Sayaka Kurora. She was, how old was she when she watched that? If she was in college, she had to be 18, 19, 20 years old. And then here it is 2 years later, she's part of the Stardom roster and doing a fantastic job. It always blows my mind when I hear people that got into wrestling anytime past the age of 10, because I take in consideration that like literally my earliest memories of just being alive is watching wrestling. I've been a fan of professional wrestling for literally as long as I've been breathing, as far as I know. So it's like whenever somebody says, oh yeah, I started watching wrestling during Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock in 1998, and they're my age, and I'm like, what did you do for the first 14, 15 years of your life? Like, how did you live? Like, wrestling is so wrestling and my fandom and being a part of it is just so intertwined to who I am. But at the same time, you never know when your path in life is going to change and whether somebody is kind of pointing you to go into a certain way. You got to think, had Sayaka Kurora not been at that job, she wouldn't have got that ticket. Had she not got that ticket, she would have went to the show. And again, you mentioned she went to the one show of the 5-star Grand Prix in September, and she loved it so much that she went to go watch the finals of the 5-star Grand Prix. And it was 2022, correct? That's what the article says?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people agree with me, including you, partner, that was the best 5-star Grand Prix ever in the history of the 5-star Grand Prix. And that final night was one of the best shows in the entire year in 2022. So really cool to see that she went down one path and then went down this way to go into pro wrestling. And we say it all the time on this show for the last 4 or 5 weeks that every time we see Sayaka Kurora in the ring, she just keeps getting better. Like between her entrance, between her moveset, between her timing, now that she knows the Cosmic Angels dance. And it's really, really cool to see and a really inspiring story.
Yeah, absolutely. Final thing, Rossy Ogawa did an interview with Pure Wrestling today. And the translation of it is currently up on the Post Wrestling website, published March 12th, 2024. Just detailing a little bit of what went on the night he was fired. Obviously, for those who don't know, Stardom ran the pay-per-view Supreme Fight. Rossy had given his notice, told everyone he was leaving. When he got backstage, basically, there was a big meeting where he was told he was fired. However, he's given a little bit more detail in regards to that, and sort of adds a little bit more fuel to the fire of this being more of an acrimonious departure than anything else. I'll just read out the quote if you want to seek out this article. It's published by Andrew Thompson over at Post Wrestling. But he says, I was about to leave the ring and go backstage when a staff member stopped me and took me to a room. There was a lawyer and a woman in charge of legal affairs there, and they handed me a piece of paper. They told me that my contract was terminated today, and that was the end of it. They put me in a taxi prepared by the company and sent me home. It was like something out of a drama. All the injured wrestlers were there that day. It certainly felt strange. I wanted to take a commemorative photo since I'd come all this way, and since it was the 13th anniversary of the event, I thought it would be a good thing. I wanted to make it a memory for myself. And then he goes into a little bit of detail about his contract, which we sort of knew anyway, which was 5 years. And then after 4 years, they were going to discuss the future, but there was never any talk. And then he actually just states, in the end, my work had become routine. It's true that I was stuck in a rut playing cards and traveling around the country. I just did what was in front of me. I don't know about you, but it stopped being fun. So a couple of things there, and just this last quote, actually, which I think speaks volumes as to where Rossy's head's at the moment. This is in the topic of there not being a successor lined up to take over after him. We didn't have such people to prepare a successor, or rather, employees are subject to transfer, so they can't work there all the time. I don't think there are people who can immerse themselves in this for the rest of their lives. In the end, I think that Stardom is something that lasts only for one generation. From now on, I think it's okay to call it the new Stardom, or Bushi Road Stardom. So, a couple of things to take from that. The first is that Rossy was basically, after this group photo, was basically pulled into an office and then quietly shuffled into a taxi and told to leave, which is, when you think that he is the man that created Stardom all the way back in 2011, it's a real shame that that's where we are in terms of the relationship, Matt.
Yeah, obviously we talked about this. Geez, when it happened back in about a month ago. But you figured, at least me, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but respecting what people have done in the past. He knew he was leaving. He gave his notice. If I was Stardom, I would have maybe built a show up. I would have, made a press conference. This is going to be Rossy's last show. Do it at Korakuen Hall. That's really the building that Stardom is most famous, known for. So many great legendary matches that have happened and that are going to continue to happen. I would have built it up as, Rossy's last show. Basically tell Rossy, here are the wrestlers, you book whatever you want outside of any title changes. And then at the end, we'll do a big closing ceremony for you. I just think somebody that has, again, he's the creator of Stardom. We wouldn't have this podcast. We wouldn't have this fantastic wrestling company that we all love so much, that gives us all so much hope, that just brings so much love and positivity into our lives if it wasn't for Rossy Ogawa. And I just think that he deserved better. Now, on the legal side, and again, we talked about this a month ago, I see why they did it, just because they don't want him there any longer to try to quote unquote poach the talent. But I just think that he deserved better on the way out. I think they should have given him a big fanfare and let him leave, with his head held high, instead of, as he quoted, like a drama, like something out of a movie.
Yeah, rather than ripping the bandage off and doing it, quickly, it seems to have been a really drawn out process in some ways. He said about how he hadn't been enjoying it for ages, and, it's a real shame that someone who has such a passion for this industry and has created something, so incredible in his time in the industry was sort of shuffled off without anything. However, it does state later on, just sort of reaffirms his desire to start that new promotion, which once we have those contract details and once we know which wrestlers will be leaving, I imagine we will learn a lot more about this promotion in quick time. Matt, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Mercedes Moné just before we kick into our show reviews this week.
Yeah, there was two things. That not only was Mercedes, but Will Ospreay was on Chris Jericho's podcast. As we record, this is Wednesday, and I kind of just want to touch upon something that he said, because he put over Stardom in a huge way. But yeah, with Mercedes, again, more again, it's Wednesday. Tonight is big business in Boston. It's not officially announced, but it's the worst kept secret in the world. More than likely, one Mercedes Moné will be debuting for AEW. And again, this was a text message that I was going to send to you, and I thought, nope, I'd rather this to be a conversation, especially a conversation over the podcast. I kind of just want to get your thoughts with Mercedes being the star that she is, basically kind of being, the prettiest girl at the dance, could have gone to any wrestling company she wanted to. She has made it very apparent how much she loved her time in Japan. She was just in Japan just a week or two ago, being a presenter at the Anime Awards, and she was hanging out with the likes of Mina Shirakawa and whatnot. She absolutely loves the Stardom roster. Do you think she has signed one of those AEW deals, considering the fact that AEW does have a working relationship with Bushiroad? Do you think she signed one of those like Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley deals that, yeah, she's an AEW contracted talent, but do you think that's going to allow her to do some dates with Stardom?
It's an interesting thought. I mean, one thing that you've got to know is if AEW are going to begin building this relationship with Stardom, which Tony Khan seems to think Rossy was in some way hindering, then there may not need to be a clause in the contract to let them work dates in Stardom. It might just be a case of, well, they're a promotion that we're working with, so yeah, feel free to work these dates as long as they don't coincide with AEW dates. I imagine that Mercedes Moné will wrestle at least once more in Japan. I'd be very, very surprised. In the same way that I'd be very surprised if Bryan Danielson isn't in a G1 before he retires. I'd be very surprised if we don't see one more Mercedes Moné match in Stardom. Who that would be against, it obviously depends who is going to be left on the roster. I'd love to see her against Utami. I think that is a real Moné match. But also against Natsupoi. I know that sounds like a really out of left field pick, but I'd love to see that. I think that'd be great. In answer to your question, Matt, yes, I think she will wrestle in Stardom. Will she have a specific contract? I mean, the chances are it's Mercedes Moné. She's a huge star. She could probably do what the hell she wants. I imagine that she can now name her price. So if she wants to wrestle in Japan, she will be allowed to wrestle in Japan. I can't see that being an issue.
Do you think, again, somebody can call her own shots, does she open the biggest forbidden door and challenge Saida at SummerSlam for the WWE? No, I mean, in all seriousness, here's something you have to think about. Julia, again, we know speculation, but we're pretty sure that at the end of this month, no longer with Stardom, is going to help Rossy out for 5-6 months or so, give or take, before she goes to the WWE sometime in the fall. She's not going to sign a contract with anybody. She's going to be a free agent, and she's going old school, going to go on her word that she's going to fill these dates with Rossy, which, again, I absolutely love her loyalty to one Rossy Ogawa. There is an actual possibility that at Forbidden Door that takes place in July, that we get Mercedes and Julia, because over the past week or two, the two of them have been going back and forth on social media, and I don't think the two of them, being as smart as they are and being just great workers and wrestlers, I don't think they would build this up if there's not something in play. So fingers crossed, maybe just because there's so much awesome stuff happening in professional wrestling in the last 5-6 months, maybe just my positive outlook. I think before Julia signs her contract with WWE, I think we're going to get that Mercedes Moné and Julia match up. And again, it's probably the biggest stage possible for them between now and the end of the summer. That's not going to be on a Stardom show, probably Arthur Ashe Stadium for Forbidden Door. So I don't know. Kind of want to get your thoughts on that one as well.
Yeah, well, they've already announced that the chances are CMLL are going to be a part of Forbidden Door this year, which makes a lot of sense considering the success that CMLL wrestlers have had on the AEW roster and the fanfare that they've gotten. I would be incredibly surprised if we don't see some Stardom participation on that show. Again, I do find it very entertaining that Tony Khan seems to think it was Rossy that was somehow blocking this, despite, according to himself, having very little power in the company at this point. But there we are. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe that is where we'll see that Mercedes Moné and Julia match. Maybe that's where we'll see more Stardom participation. Maybe that's where we'll see more Stardom integrating with AEW talent, maybe challenging for the TBS title or something like that. It's all up in the air. Obviously, did you say it was Arthur Ashe Stadium that they're looking at for Forbidden Door this year?
Yeah, that's in New York City. So if there is some Stardom talent on that show, there's a good chance that Matt Turner, your podcast host, buddy, will be at that show.
There you go. I probably won't be coming for that one, mate, if that's all right.
No, absolutely. I think you're going to be. I think you're going to have enough of me over the next couple of weeks, especially when I'm talking about everybody should buy "Chasing the Dream" by my good friend Rob Goodwin. I made a bet with them, folks, that I'm going to try to plug it as much as possible. So real quick, before we get into these three shows we're going to review, I just listened to Will Ospreay on Talk is Jericho, and obviously Chris Jericho's phenomenal at interviewing. Will Ospreay really comes off really genuine in the podcast. About halfway through, they start talking about him in Stardom. He was saying he was dating somebody in Stardom. I'm assuming it was former World of Stardom champion One B Priestley. He was talking about how him and Hana Kimura got along really, really well, and he really just talks about how the two of them were just really, really good friends, and she was just the nicest person that he ever met. He also did talk about how he would go in the Stardom dojo when he wasn't on shows for New Japan, and he would go and train. He said there was one wrestler that really stood out in the Stardom dojo that he kind of helped train. I knew what he was going to say. He said this is somebody that in 5 years everybody's going to know her name, and that's one Azumi. And I literally said out loud, I said, "Well, I 100% agree with you. Everyone's going to know her name, but I don't think it's going to take 5 years, especially with all these shows that Azumi's doing in the States. I think everyone's going to know who Azumi is by the end of the year." And then he also did say about how he goes, the talent in Stardom right now, he's like, is so good. He goes, whoever your favorite wrestler is in the States, your favorite women's wrestler in the States. And he said, no disrespect, 90% of the Stardom roster cannot wrestle them. And I'm like, I know, that's what we've been saying. And it's another reason why Saya Ida will win the world championship.
If we keep saying it, it'll happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. In all seriousness, though, it was the entire interview was great, and Will comes off really, really genuine. But yeah, about halfway through, he does talk about his love for Stardom and just how fantastic Stardom is. And I know everybody loves Hana Kimura. And great shot for Will, really just paying respect and just how much love he has and still has for Hana Kimura. I think he talked about how he checks in on Hana's mother from time to time to make sure how he's doing. So that just goes to show you what just a wonderful person Will Ospreay is.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out, Will. Like he listens to this podcast. Anyway, let's talk about the shows that we're going to talk about today. So obviously we have left over from last week the show from the 3rd, which was in Nagata. We're going to just quickly whip through that and the results from that. And then we have got the 2 pay-per-views. We have Cinderella Tournaments Night 1 and Night 2. The first from Yokohama Budokan, and then the second from Korakuen Hall. But before we get into that, Matt, let's talk about this show from the 3rd of March. Stardom in Joetsu, Nagata, the Kenshin Budokan in front of 345 people. No sellout this time, but they can't all be winners. I'm just going to whip through the card and the results, and then we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. Open with a tag team match. The Queen's Quest team of Azumi and Sayaka Mitani defeated the EXV team of Hanako and Wakasukiyama. Azumi pinning Hanako with the Azumi Sushi in 8 minutes and 9 seconds. In an 8-woman tag match, the Uedatai team of Tora, Momo Watanabe, Ruaka, and Starlight Kid defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Saori Ano, Tam Nakano, and Yuna Mizumori and Sayaka Korora in 11 minutes and 36 seconds. Tora pinning Korora with the Frog Splash. Tag team action, the God's Eye team of Syuri and Rani Yagami defeated the team of Julia and Mei Sakurai, with Syuri submitting Mei Sakurai with the Suzaku in 10 minutes, and 38 seconds. 6-woman tag match, God's Eye again, Mirai Misori and Saki Kashima defeated the Stars team of Koguma, Mai Iwatani, and Saya Ida, with Saki Kashima getting the pinfall with what we'll politely call an assisted body press in 11 minutes and 28 seconds. Semi-main event saw Crazy Star, Mace Sarah, and Suzu Suzuki defeating the Queen's Quest team of Miyu Amasaki and Utami Hayashishita. Suzu Suzuki pinning Miyu with the tequila shot. And then in your main event, the 6-woman tag team match, EXV, Maika, Mina Shirakawa, and Xena defeated the Stars team of Hanan, Hazuki, and Yuzuki, Xena pinning Yuzuki with the Thunderstruck in 15 minutes and 5 seconds. Matt, aside from Saki Kashima being launched into the air by Amisori and Mirai for this assisted body press, what else should we be checking out, my man?
I just want match 3. I just want to talk about the post match. And this isn't the first time this happened. This has been quite a bit going on since the beginning of the year. But there's been a post match brawl between Shuri and Julia. And I obviously with Julia leaving soon. And it seems like, again, I think they'll probably set it up this week. And it seems like her final big match is going to be against Tam Nakano. But it really seems like they're setting something up for Shuri and Julia. Do you think maybe, again, it seems like this Tam match is going to happen on the pay-per-view next week, which is the 20th. That gives them a whole nother week. Do you think that maybe at the end of the month they're going to do something with Shuri versus Julia and Julia's final match? Or do you think the Tam one is kind of the way to go?
Interesting. I'm just looking at the dates that we have, and there's not a great deal of big shows left in March. Obviously, the final is the big show. I would be amazed if they don't put Julia and Tam on that show. Really, really stack the deck in terms of that. We've got a couple of other Cinderella shows, obviously the 16th and the 17th, but I can't see it being on that. We've got Stardom in Nara. I don't think it's going to be on that. We've got maybe Kyoto, maybe KBS Hall. Stardom in Sendai, Miyagi Sendai Pit, and then the last show in March, actually the final day in March, which is in Yamagata Big Wing. So are any of those venues really, what's the word, are any of those fitting for a Shuri versus Julia match? No. I mean, obviously the big thing would be if Julia was staying on till April. Obviously we've got All-Star Grand Queendom coming up on the 27th. That would be the perfect place. Julia has openly stated that she's not going to be there in April. So where do you do this? Because for me, the Cinderella tournament final on the 20th, that's perfect for Tam versus Julia, which we know they're running. I don't know where else you'd run it, Matt.
So, yeah, then maybe it's not happening. Maybe it's just something with the two of them knowing that they're tying together. Not let Sherry, it seems like she's staying on because she's on all these shows in Philadelphia in April. It seems like she's staying on, but maybe it's just something that they're doing like, hey, let's get in as much fun as possible. Not only bell to bell, but after the bell. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just something that I was maybe looking into a little bit too much because I just love the two of them together. But yeah, I kind of just want to get your thoughts. But my favorite match of the show was match number 5 with the Queen's Quest team of Miyu Amasaki and Utami Hayashishita against the crazy star duo of the high-speed champion Mei Seira and last year's winner of the 5-star Grand Prix and one Suzu Suzuki. Again, this is kind of a build-up to the next Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Championship. You have 3 of the 4 wrestlers that are going to be in this match. I thought it was my favorite match. I liked how when May does that, when she jumps off from the second rope, and not only the second rope, but the middle of the rope. Now, Rob, you've never been in a professional wrestling ring before. And let me tell you, to balance yourself on the middle of the rope, like the further away you go from the post, the less balance that you have. So the fact that she's able to do that, and she usually comes off with either the code breaker, the missile dropkick, or the blockbuster, the fact she's able to jump up, balance herself off, and then get a good enough bounce where she's able to do these moves, which is absolutely crazy. But then she goes to do it and do the code breaker to Utami. Utami just like picks her out of air like she's nothing. I just thought that was a really cool spot. Miyu Amasaki, I loved her spots here with May. I thought there was some really good stuff there. But for me, the money match here was just Utami and Suzu just slugging it out. I thought it was just really good stuff. Again, Utami and Miyu Amasaki, great as a team. Crazy Star, one of the best tag teams in all of wrestling. Really solid stuff. Again, my favorite match from this show. I had it at 3 3/4 stars.
Interesting. I mean, we don't know who is leaving and when. And I've got a feeling that that's why we are sort of up in the air with championship matches. But if either Saya or Utami are leaving, or even both, Crazy Star would be the perfect team to put the titles on instead, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think they set it up after this match in a backstage segment where Crazy Star basically said like, hey, like we won this match against somebody that's one half of the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Championships. We were supposed to get that title shot back in, I believe, was it January just a handful of weeks ago, but Suzu was sick. So they did, and they made a big point. They put it up on the main Stardom Twitter page and tweeted it out. So they made it a big point that that match is going to be happening soon. But again, we're kind of running low on time if there is going to be title change. So when's it going to happen, or is one of the two members of Aphrodite going to basically run a week or two past their contract? So yeah, again, it's interesting because if some of these champions are not renewing their contract and are leaving, they need to get the belts off them ASAP. And considering the fact that Utami is having a World of Stardom Championship match against Micah, it's really, and in the next pay-per-view next week, it's really leaving a lot to be desired of if any of these wrestlers are going to be dropping the belts.
The tag titles, to be fair, you could do at a KBS Hall. Because yes, it's not Korakuen, it's still a prestigious venue, it's still a beautiful venue. And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that show being main evented by Crazy Star versus Aphrodite. I don't think anyone would, to be fair. So that could be an option. Again, we don't know who's leaving. I mean, I have got a vision in my head of Micah retaining against Utami and Utami taking the mic and leaving. But I think that's just because that's how B. Priestley left. So I'm trying not to think too far ahead because literally anything could happen. What else was worth checking out on this show, Matt?
That was my favorite match. The main event was really good as well with Azina, Mina, and Micah versus Hazuki, Hanan, and Yuzuki. It always seems like Xena and Hazuki, they really do a great job of throwing down, but as well as you have Hazuki and Micah. There was, I think I text you that as soon as this match got done, that Hazuki really beat. There was a quick segment with Micah and Hazuki. It wasn't long, but Hazuki made every second count. It's one of the reasons why we absolutely love Hazuki. I mean, they had a forearm trade-off, which you don't want to do that against Hazuki because she goes into full Hazuki mode. But they do the forearm trade-off. Micah hits the discus lariat, and then Hazuki pops out and hits this running pump kick. That it was like, I think that maybe Hazuki thought Micah was Natsupoi from 2022 because she hit her so hard. I was like, geez, Louise, you would think Hazuki's the one that's the champion here. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Hazuki does a great job, in these multi-person matches, making sure that she gives as much to her opponents as she gets in the match. And obviously, Mina Shirakawa, she's fantastic. And, Yuzuki, again, I mention this almost every week. It's nice that when they have these rookies in the main event of these shows mixed in, with the top talent in Stardom, again, like with a Hazuki, with a Hanan, who's great, and then with a Mina and a Mike as well. You're only going to get better. Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. Let's talk about the first pay-per-view then, because genuinely I'm very excited to talk about the shows because I thought overall Stardom knocked it out of the park this week. So this was the first night of the Cinderella from the Yokohama Budokan, Yokohama, Kanagawa, Japan, the 9th of March. A reported 1,555 people in attendance, a far healthier number than the 960 they drew for the Triangle Derby show on the 3rd of January, back up to a far healthier number. Again, I'll read through all of the matches and results, and then we'll talk about them. There is a lot of matches on this first card, a hell of a lot of matches, so I will go through them as quickly as possible. So in the pre-show 8-way match, Suzu Suzuki defeated Ami Sourei, Azumi, Hazuki, Mei Sakurai, Mei Seira, Mirai, and Waka Tsukiyama, with Suzu pinning Mei Sakurai in 7 minutes and 44 seconds with the Gran Maestro de Tequila. Rina achieved her 7th successful title defense of the Future of Stardom title, defeating Diana's Miran in 11 minutes and 26 seconds with the Pink Devil, becoming only the second champion to pass 300 days with that belt. In the first of our tournament matches, Starlight Kid defeated Yuzuki in 8 minutes and 21 seconds with the Moonsault. In the shock of the tournament, Sayaka Kurora defeated Natsuko, admittedly by DQ, but that does not matter. Sayaka Kurora technically gets her first singles victory of her career in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Yuna Mizumori defeated Lady C with the TP Sunshine in 5 minutes and 4 seconds. Xena dispatched the recently returned Momo Kogo in 3 minutes and 39 seconds with the Thunderstruck. Miyu Amasaki and her fantastic new gear defeated Ronnie Yagami in 4 minutes and 30 seconds after hitting the Tenzai. Ruaka defeated Koguma, though that should read Oedatai defeated Koguma in 5 minutes and 16 seconds, not bitter at all, via over the top rope. Sayurida defeated Saki Kashima in a battle of the roll-ups in 4 minutes and 47 seconds, getting the successful pinfall with the Idabashi. Hanan defeated Hanako in 6 minutes and 30 seconds, debuting a brand new submission finisher that she calls Dandelion. That rounds off the tournament matches. And then the final 3 matches in the 6-woman tag match, Julia Konami and Shiori defeated the Oedatai team of Fukigen Death, Momo Watanabe, and Stephanie Vaquer, with Shiori submitting Fukigen Death with Byako in 11 minutes and 19 seconds. In an absolutely outstanding match, Natsupoi's return match, Chihiro Hashimoto and Sari defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Saoripoi, Natsupoi, and Saori Ano in 18 minutes and 59 seconds. Sari pinning Natsupoi with the wrist clutch modified Uranagi. Incredibly stiff move. I loved it. And then in your main event, a 3-way tag team match, the EXV team of Maika and Mina defeated the team of Mayu Otani and Tam Nakano, who managed to put aside their differences and actually fight relatively well together, and the Queen's Quest team of Azumi and Saya Kamatani. This was initially supposed to be Utami and Saya Kamatani, but it was announced that Utami would miss these 2 shows because of illness just before the start of this show. Azumi was parachuted in, and as a thanks, she ate the pinfall, Maika pinning her in 14 minutes and 25 seconds with the Michinoku driver too. Matt, there's a great deal of stuff to talk about from this match, and it only makes sense to start this review, talking about Mai Sakurai's hat.
Yeah, first of all, kudos to Azumi doing double duty in the main event and in the opener. So I thought that was great. When they first announced that it was Azumi taking Utami's place, I'm like, of course that makes sense. That's your best possible outcome. So I figured it'd just be a 7-way, but oh no, they kept Azumi in there. So yeah, not only May's hat, but how about when they went to go do the 7-way suplex spot where she jumped on everybody, then she did the pose. Like, she should have just had a cup of coffee or cappuccino while she was there. So, really good stuff, really good shtick. I liked how the match started with the two high speed wrestlers versus like the main tag team in this. You have Hazuki and Azumi doing the high speed stuff with, May Sarah is obviously the high speed champion, and Suzu Suzuki. So it started off almost like as a mini tag match, and I was like, again, that just goes to show you how great Azumi is. Suzuki's not her tag partner, not her off-again on-tag partner, not even in the same faction. But the two of them had really great chemistry in this little, 90-second tag match they had to start out with Crazy Star. I thought that was really good and just a great way to start this show, a great way to start off this pay-per-view. But it leads to me believe with Mai Sakurai eating all these pinfalls, it looks like that she's going to be on her way out. I mean, you can kind of tell from the booking who's staying, who's going without them saying it. And it looks like she's on her way out. But Suzuki getting a win here, building up her a little bit for the next round of the Cinderella tournament, which we'll talk about. But I thought as far as pre-shows matches go, I think this was one of the better ones. I had 3.5 stars. I thought it was a fun match.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think it set out what it needed to do. Obviously, all 8 of these women had buys into the next round of the Cinderella tournament. So just a little bit of time to get on the card. Everyone got enough in. And I must admit, I did prefer this to your usual pre-show battle royal, which is a pet peeve of mine, to be perfectly honest. The Future of Stardom title match, Matt. Rina versus Moran. This was better than I thought it would be good, because we saw Moran on the New Blood shows and she looked very much, though you could see she had talent, she did still look like a young girl, which is what she is. However, here, I don't know what they have fed her in the intervening 6 months, but not only has she grown exponentially, but also she is a very, very good wrestler. Like, her and Rena put on a fantastic opener here.
Yeah, the fact this went over 10 minutes, I figured with just how many matches there are on this card, I know there was going to be a handful of these matches in the tournament, the Cinderella tournament, that we're going to go like 3-4 minutes. But I thought this one would have went like 7 or 8 minutes. But the fact that was it 11:26, Rob? Do I have that right?
11:26. Well done.
Look at that. Well, I'm not going to lie. I copied what you said about a minute ago. So
you were listening. That's the main thing.
Like Jake the Snake Roberts said, you got to know where to steal your stuff. Steal it from the best. And you are the best, my man. But no, this is really great. Obviously, Rena's really on her stuff with this Future of Stardom Championship. She's doing a great job with it. The fact that they kind of just brought Moran in here with like no fanfare, no nothing. It's, considering the fact that Miyu Amasaki and Yuzuki, they both built up to their respective championship matches over the last few months. Even with Miyu, they had a contract signing. With this one, it was just like, I woke up one day, checked Twitter. I'm like, oh, all right, well, this should be pretty good. Yeah, Moran, when we saw her a handful of months ago, was really good. The shock of no one, she's gotten better. There's a couple things that I thought she was just a little bit off on, like some of her roll-ups, just very, very small things. That again, that's one of the reasons why Stardom's so good. You never really see any holes in the game of any of these wrestlers. It doesn't matter how young that they are. It just that's just basically a tip of the cap of the Stardom Training Center. And again, there's a couple things, very small things that Moran was just off. And I would love to see Moran maybe go to Stardom a little bit more, maybe even train in the dojo to kind of tweak those little things. But I mean, you can't ask for anything more for the official opener of a pay-per-view. This was great. Another great title defense from Rena, who just constantly getting better at just the age. I think she's only 17 years old, which is just frightening. I wonder what those parents did for a living. Like, their dad must have been like a football player and the mom has to have been like a tennis player, because all three of these, Hina, Rena, and Hanan, obviously we're going to talk a lot about Hanan. They're all incredibly talented. I wonder if they have any brothers. Like, it's just the three of them. That I don't know. If anybody knows that answer, let us know, because I would love to know that, because these three are just fantastic. Again, I'm just a huge fan of Rena and everything that she does, and she does a great job playing the little brat heel. I like how Rena, she always calls everybody like an old hag.
Yeah.
But then Moran, when Moran was booting her, she's like, "You're an old hag," and I was like, "Their combined age is like 31." Like, it's just insane. I just thought that was so funny. She turned it on her. Really great match, great way to start the show, and I'm excited to see what their future holds for both Rena and Moran. I had it at 3 3/4 stars.
I believe, just let me check that I had it at the exact same. No, I had it higher. I actually gave it 4 1/4, Matt Turner.
Whoa, look at you, buddy. Look at you.
I mean, if we look, so Moran debuted in 2022. I believe she's 15. And at that point, she was 13, maybe. She's wrestled in Stardom 4 times now and has looked better each time. I think she is going to be a very, very, very special talent. And I think the growth and the improvement that she had here was evident. And what I really liked as well was the flip-flop of the heel and face. Moran certainly is not wrestling as a heel, don't get me wrong, but I did like the fact that she had more of an edge to her here than she did in her previous matches, and didn't let Rena talk down to her. And I thought, credit to Rena, she was able to carry the match. Not that Moran needed carrying, but she was able to carry the match as the main sort of focus of this match incredibly well. And that's, again, credit to her. I thought both women did fantastically well. I think this was one of the better Future of Stardom Championship matches, and definitely one of the better matches on this card as well. So well done to both women. And speaking of great matches on this card, it was followed by what, in my humble opinion, was the best tournament match of the evening, with Starlight Kid defeating Yuzuki. I thought this match was brilliant. And if you needed any more indication that Starlight Kid has star written all over her, you just need to look at the way she enters the arena. The brand new mask, the brand new gear, the new hair, the light up hem of the robe, everything felt very much on point. And I do think that Bushi Road are going to be, if she stays, which I do think she's going to, they are going to be strapping not only a rocket, but filling it full of all of the jet fuel they can find for Starlight Kid, Matt.
Yeah, maybe they'll put a DeLorean on her and let her go 88 miles per hour as well. But I absolutely agree with you that this was my favorite tournament match of the night. Now, what I've done last year, what I'm gonna do this year, when as far as it comes to my ratings, for whatever that's worth, I always give the first two rounds a little bit grading on a curve, just because you're dealing with the over the top rope and you're dealing with a 10-minute time limit. So this was so good, literally to the point where, because Rob and I are so terrible on our predictions of the Cinderella tournament, upsets can happen anytime, which that makes it so great. But there was one or two times in this match that I thought Yuzuki was going to pull off the upset. I figured I have Starlight Kid going to the Final Four. Of course, she would be the very first wrestler eliminated. That just goes to show you how great Yuzuki is at such a young age, and how great Starlight Kid is as far as a heel role goes, to make an underdog babyface look good and almost, pull one out on an upset. Great match, and the fact that Starlight Kid was able to break out the moonsault for the win. We see her use the moonsault, but not really much for for a finishing move. I think she should use it more often because she does have one of the best moonsaults in all of wrestling. Again, my man, I totally agree with you. This was my favorite tournament match of night one. I had it at the solid 4 stars.
Yeah, completely agree. I had the exact same. I thought Yuzuki, again, new gear for Yuzuki. I thought she looked great. She's another one whose progress really is tremendous. The fact that she has such limited in-ring experience, yet as good as she is, and is able to keep up with a frantically quick Starlight Kid, just all the better. Really, really, really good match. Again, match of the tournament to this point, because it's the first match.
But ladies and gentlemen, Rob, good one.
Thank you.
Here all weekend. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Try the veal.
But yeah, I also really like the fact that Starlight Kid then went on to confront Suzu, who was on commentary at this point. Sayaka Kurora beating Natsuko Tora. Now, I've seen mixed reviews of this match, people not really understanding why Tora would lose to Sayaka Kurora. I really like this. Like, the match, don't get me wrong, it's there. It's nothing special. In fact, I think I gave it like 2.5 or something. And that's not bad. It's literally middle of the road. But what I liked about it is the fact that Natsuko Tora, why would Natsuko Tora, the leader of a Wedatai, want to wear the Cinderella dress? It makes no sense. What she wants is to hurt people, and that's what she did. She just brutalized Sayaka Kurora to the point where she got DQ'd. And that, I think, is a very, very good story beat. Yes, Sayaka Kurora got the victory, but ultimately Natsuko Tora just beat a pillar to post. Spat the mist in her face, which was an interesting way to get DQ'd when she does it all the time and never gets DQ'd. But then, obviously, attacking her afterwards with the sentons. I thought this was the perfect way to give Sayaka Kurora a little bit more babyface sympathy, but also just to remind people that Tora does not care and she will hurt people.
Rob, I think that she didn't get DQ'd because of the mist. I think she got DQ'd because she hit the referee. The way that
okay.
I'm a stickler for the rules, and again, I love how Tora is very. I love how Tora is basically copy and pasting how she blinds the referees for the miss, like Kagetsu used to do. Again, copy an A, get an A. Know where to steal your stuff from. I say Kagetsu is the greatest working heel in the history of Stardom, and Tora is the greatest working heel in current day Stardom. So she does now. Kurora is on top of her. She has her in the mount, and she's raining down forearms. And Tora does the mist from the bottom, which we've never seen before. So like the referee, I can see where like maybe he can't see it, but sees something because Sayaka's forearms are in the way from forearming a down Tora. So it's like he sees the miss, but does he? Can he call? So he's kind of like in the crosshairs. Do I call it? And then he goes to admonish Tora, and then Tora just punches him in the neck. And because at first I'm like, yeah, she did the miss. Did she get caught? Didn't she? I was like, I don't know. Then she hits the ref, and I was like, she's got to be DQ'd. And then she got DQ'd, and I was like, oh, all right, we're following rules here. So I agree that I like how Tora can care less about the Cinderella crown, that basically she wants Furuwaka to win it. Again, we'll get into it with her match with Kagama in a little bit. But I liked how, again, not only did she just blitz the rookie here, she jumped her. It's like, wait a minute. You just had a red belt match. You dominated. You were 1 win away, dominated the 5-star Grand Prix last year. You're the most badass person in this company, other than Shuri for obvious reasons, and you're jumping a rookie Like, what a jerk. Again, but that's awesome. That's why she's the greatest working heel in Stardom today, because you want to boo her. And then she just beats up Sakura. Kurora makes the comeback. So now as a fan, you're like, yeah, you beat up that evil Tor. You beat her up. And then Tor does the miss, punches the referee, gets DQ'd, and you're like, yeah, that's what you get. I thought the psychology was great. It makes Sakura more of a sympathetic babyface, and it makes Natsuko Tor more of a badass heel. And the fact they got that all done in less than 4 minutes, it's a great story to tell. Again, you have so many matches on this card. You kind of need something to be like, tell a quick story, get in and out, do what you need to do, punch the ref, and call it a day. And that's what happened.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it did its job perfectly. And gave us our first real shock of the tournament as well, which, is an added bonus. Yuna Mizumori defeating Lady C. I don't have a problem with this. I love Yuna Mizumori. I did want Lady C to go through because I think she's been through a lot. She's worked really hard, but I did like Yuna Mizumori targeting that strapped up arm. Where Lady C's been out with the laceration she suffered a couple of weeks back. Again, it was one of those where I wasn't disappointed with whoever went through, but from a purely selfish standpoint, because of my bracket, I would have liked Lady C to go through. However, I think Yuna Mizumori has put in the work, has improved religiously over the last couple of months, and I'm glad she's getting a little bit of recognition, Matt.
Yeah, good stuff. The only thing I was disappointed in, I know when we talked last week when we went over a preview, this was probably the match in the first round I was looking forward to the most. So I'm just a huge fan of both Lady C and Yuna Mizumori. And I also appreciate hard work. And these two ladies have been working so hard in pro wrestling to get better at their craft. I just wish it went a little bit longer than 5 minutes. I understand because you're on a longer show. I wish it would have, had another 2 minutes to tell their story. Regardless, both Lady C and Yuna, they both maximized every second they had in the ring. Really great psychology and easy story to tell with Yuna, as you mentioned before. So perfectly, partner, that going after Lady C's injured arm. Ultimately, they just go back and forth with the choke slams. Lady C hits the Baba line, and they go back and forth with the chops. Excuse me. Lady C hits the giant Baba line, and then the big choke slam for a 2 count. But then eventually Yuna puts her away with the basically the electric chair face buster, which is kind of a newer move from her. She really doesn't bust that out that much. So another wrinkle in the game, the offensive arsenal that is Yuna Mizumori, that I believe she calls the TP Sunshine. So. Playing up upon that role. She's so bubbly and fits so well into Tam's Cosmic Angels. Yeah, good match. Again, I wish it was a little bit longer. 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 3. The same reason, really. However, you have got to take into account the fact that, these matches are going to be shorter as we thin the field. I feel like that's sort of a given with these tournament matches. It was one that sort of went under the radar, which is a shame because it's also the same as what we can say about the next match. Xena defeating Momo Kogo in 3 minutes and 39 seconds. No issue at all with the result. I think, Xena is sort of a hot commodity at the moment. She's the only real foreigner in the tournament. Momo Kogo has just come back from injury. She was never going to beat Xena. I'll be perfectly honest, it was never going to happen. My only real gripe is that it only went 3 minutes, 39 seconds. I feel like this one, of all the ones we've seen, this one could have gone a little bit longer, Matt.
Yeah, the psychology of it made sense, though. Like, Momoko comes out and just blitzes Xena, and it's all over Xena. And Xena would get a couple chops, a couple of things, but then Momo would just fight back. Then out of nowhere, Xena just picks her up for a torture rack and then flips her midair to the Thunderstruck. And I was like, I guess that makes sense because it was like 80% Momo Kogo, 20% Xena. But that 20% is all she needed to defeat Momo Kogo. Really, again, I think I was the only one, not only in our brackets, but maybe anyone in the world that fills out a bracket that Momo Kogo going over Xena. I really bought into that promo. I really, really did, as much as Xena's been pushed, and rightfully so, since she's come back to Stardom because she's fantastic. That I really thought this would be a good shot in the arm for Momo Kogo, but ultimately it just only took 1 or 2 moves to put away Momo. But good match. I agree. I wish it would have went 5 or 6 minutes. I understand why it got cut down, but boy, what a finish! With just Xena just out of nowhere picking Momo up for the torture rack and flipping her in midair to give her that gut buster, the Thunderstruck.
Yeah, it was a really cool way to get her in it. Plus, it really did show the confidence that Xena's got. She feels like a completely different performer than she did in her first run. And I don't know if that's because she isn't being overshadowed by the likes of Mariah May, who, of course, seemed to... she was like a magnet for the camera wherever she was, wasn't she, really? And I think now that she's not necessarily in that shadow, I think she's sort of relishing the fact that she's the big foreign, not necessarily heel, because I don't think EXV are explicitly heels, but the big foreign powerhouse, should I say. And I think Momo Kogo was certainly the perfect opponent to showcase that, because you're absolutely right. The way she got into the Thunderstruck, literally flipping Momo Kogo in midair to hit it, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Miyu Amasaki and Ronnie Yagami. Miyu Amasaki has to go deep into this tournament for me. The new robe, the new gear, she's so much better in rings. She's getting consistency. She's another one who just oozes more confidence. A big victory here. Surely she beats Mai Sakurai. I mean, we talked about it before. Mai Sakurai, you mentioned, Matt, if we're going off that pre-show 8-woman match, Mai Sakurai looks like she could be on her way out of the company. However, surely before she goes, she could put Miyu Amasaki over. I genuinely think that Miyu Amasaki beats her and then goes on to face Azumi. I think that's the match that we're going to have.
I know that I have, in my tournament bracket when we did it last week, I had Sakurai defeating Miyu Amasaki if Miyu won this match, which she did. But based on just what I was thinking of this past week, I'm not going back on what I said. I have our brackets are in. They're, I have Mai Sakurai going over. But yeah, I totally agree that I think Miyu is going to get the win here for two reasons. One, I think Mai Sakurai's on her way out. I think she does. I think she's really loyal to Julia. I think she's going to go give Rossy's company a go to help out there. And then the main reason is just Miyu Amasaki's she's earned it. I don't like that word deserved. She's definitely earned it. She's worked her butt off. She has the new robe, the new look. She's in fantastic shape. She's better with everything that she does. She's a great in-ring tag wrestler, with Azumi, tagging with Saya Kamatani, tagging with Utami these past handful of shows. Really, really good. And I think you're going to see Miyu do a deep run in the tournament. I know in your bracket you had her going over Azumi, which I think is just absolutely crazy, but it is what it is. But at the same time, on paper, that's going to be a big matchup. So Miyu looked great here. And Rana Yagami, again, looked great. Her kicks, her submissions, where she needs to be in the ring, the bumping and feeding for the baby face here, Miyu Amasaki, is just absolutely great. Obviously Rana's coming into this pro wrestling game with an MMA background. You can tell, how she gets into the arm bars, the kicks, her stances, the way that she moves around the ring, the way that she's able to switch her stance from orthodox to southpaw. You can tell she has that kickboxing and MMA background. And this early on in her career, she's able to transition that into the pro wrestling ring. Obviously, it doesn't hurt that the fact that she's working with Shuri so much, who's the best, one of the best ever to transition from MMA to pro wrestling, and Shuri, one of the best wrestlers in the world. That doesn't hurt as well. But Rana looked great here, only for in the end for her to put Miyu Amasaki over, and they were able to do that in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Great stuff. Really, really good match. Like to see these two run it back sometime soon, with maybe going 9-10 minutes. But again, I understand the reason why it was shortened on time, and I actually had this one at 3.5 stars.
There you go. Moving on, Ruaka defeating Koguma. This has a big fat asterisk by it, but again, with over the top rope, and that by the way, going back to what you said before, is why I think Miyu Amasaki beats Azumi. I think Azumi goes to the top rope to hit the diving double foot stomp and gets pushed off by Miyu. I think it writes itself. This one, of course, Koguma was taking on basically the entirety of a weather tie as well as Ruaka, and never really stood a chance, Matt.
Yeah, and again, what I liked about this, and they're setting up second round matches. You mentioned with Starlight Kid and Suzu Suzuki having a stare down, at the end of Starlight Kid's match with Suzu doing commentary. I'm like, they're literally going to have a match in a handful of hours. And you have Ruaka, who after eliminates Kagama, and then they're still beating on her afterwards. And obviously Hazuki is her tag partner. She's there to kind of make the save, and they have a little bit of a stare down. I'm like, okay, because we know that's our second round matchup coming next week. And then we'll talk about it when we talk about the the last show. And they do a little angle where they're building Ruwaka and Hazuki. So it's like Stardom had a little bit of difficulties kind of building up some matches, championship matches, the latter part of 2023. And they're doing a phenomenal job booking second and third round matches for the Cinderella tournament. It's just awesome. It's just little things that they're doing. We had a stare down with Hanan and Starlight Kid, which we'll get to. It's like they're building up these matches for the next round of the tournament, which I absolutely love. Again, if Ruwaka's going to go over, this is the way to do it. I like the fact that the Tora match went first and then this, because now we understand Tora's vision. She can care less about this tournament. She wants to just inflict pain. And literally it was just like, we're going to ruin this tournament for everybody. And just to get Ruwaka as far into the tournament as possible. Koguma doesn't lose anything by losing this match. The fact that she took the double choke bomb off the apron to the floor. Yes, there were people there to catch her, but didn't catch her 100%.
No, they
it
did
was
not.
safe. It was safe, but I was like, oh boy, that was, and again, it might have been the timing issue, or they didn't know how far Koguma was going to go, but she looked like she was okay, thank God. But Koguma doesn't lose anything, and Ruwaka gets not only Ruwaka over, it gets the entire faction of Oedo Tai over. It's just dirty cheating heels, Rob. Dirty cheating heels, and really at the end of the day, wrestling, it can be kind of simple. You don't need to overbook things, and this one's very simply booked, very well done. 3.25 stars.
Saya Iida's march towards the Cinderella tournament final carried on with the victory over Saki Kashima. There's probably the least to say about this match in terms of story, but I did like the fact that Saya Iida got a win back after Saki pinned her on the third map.
Yeah, this was basically the two of them kind of going back and forth with the Itabashi versus the Kishi Kasai, mixed in with some Saya Iida chops and some comedy. Again, you have all these matches in this tournament. I knew this one wasn't going to go long, and it didn't need to. I like the finish. These two worked hard, told a simple story. You're in and out less than 5 minutes. And most importantly, Saya Iida, fan favorite of us here on the Stardom Cast podcast, moves on to night number 2, and I cannot wait to talk about the match for night number 2 because it's one of the most entertaining pro wrestling matches I've ever watched live, and we'll explain why in a little bit. I gave it the gentleman 3.25 stars.
God, why? I'm really intrigued now to know why. Let's move on then. Hanan defeated Hanako. Brand new submission with the Dandelion, and again, one that we saw coming in the victory. But again, a good match, Matt.
Yeah, this might have been my second favorite. Yeah, this was my second favorite match of the first round. Really good stuff here. Hanako really dominated Hanan early on. I like the fact that Hanan is now adding submissions. She has the wrist plus backdrop driver. She has the Hanan special. She has the 17 roll up, and now she has the Dandelion submission, which is basically as a catch wrestler, they would call that a step over quarter Nelson. I was trying to she locked it in. I'm like, that's got to be the finish because she went for it early on in the match and then went back to it. And I understand how Hanan builds her offense. I'm like, that's a really cool looking submission. So I was like, I'm probably not going to get the name of that hold for another day or two. So I was kind of just looking at it. I'm like, okay, that's a step over and that is a half Nelson. So I'm just going to write down step over or step through half Nelson. And about 20 minutes later, I was notified it's called the Dandelion. I'm like, oh, that's a cute name. So really good stuff. Hanan looked great here. Hanako looked great here. And the fact that Hanan has added a submission finisher to her already impressive game, it's really just going to possibly take her far into this tournament. 3 3/4 stars for me.
Yeah, it was probably my second favorite match, to be fair, of this tournament thus far. Again, Hanan improves every single time we see her. Adding that submission is one of those final bits of the puzzle. I don't feel like Hanan has a great deal of submission-based offense. It just rounds out her arsenal in general to have this in. And she doesn't actually use it at all against Mirai and spends a lot of the time locked in a submission herself, but that's by the by. The 6-woman tag match, Matt, what did you think of it?
Rob Gunn, I was watching this match, and as this match got over with, I closed my eyes, and I opened my eyes, and for a brief second, I was sitting next to you in the venue, and you were yelling, clown abuse, clown abuse. We've all kind of figured that Fuki and Death would eat the fall here, not unless they want to have Steph Backer go over Konami to kind of build her up a little bit for her match the very next day, but boy howdy, it was like, not only was it Sherry, it was Julia, it was Konami. Poor freaking Death. I know how much of a huge fan you were of her, but boy, she got beat up pretty well. But they did a great job building this match around what we were going to get the very next night in the main event of Cork and Hall with Steph Walker versus Shuri. And Steph Walker, I'm just so impressed with. She's such a great wrestler, and hopefully we are going to see more of her in Stardom for obvious reasons, which we'll get to. Steph Walker and Julia. Steph Walker and Shuri did have some really good exchanges. It was great seeing Konami, her and Momo Watanabe just laying into each other. I'm always a fan of that, and I'm super excited to see Konami live in Philadelphia coming up on the 7th of April, because she's one of my low-key favorites. And hopefully during the meet and greet, my man, maybe we'll get a little, maybe me, you, and her will do a little TCS yes sir wave. Maybe I think that'd be a cool little thing to get. But regardless, excellent match. Probably my third favorite match of the show. I had it at 4 stars.
And now we'll talk about the match that everyone wants to talk about, and what I imagine is everyone's favorite match on this card. The return of the Murder Pixie. It's time to say hi, Poi, because Natsupoi is back. What a match. Like, you would be forgiven, considering Natsupoi, was out of action for a long time with a neck injury. You would be forgiven for thinking that she was just taking it slow, especially as she's wrestling one of her closest friends in Sari. No. What you forget is that Natsupoi is second only to Mayu Iwatani in the selling stakes, and seems to enjoy being punted round the room like an American football. She eats such a huge amount of offense, and she's in the ring for the vast majority of it. Everyone in this match plays their part to a T. Chihiro Hashimoto is exactly what I wanted. You, as in you, not you, Matt Turner. You're perfect just the way you are.
Oh shucks! You want to offend me? You want to offend me with cash either? But anywho,
this is what I wanted you to be. We still know that Hashimoto is an absolute behemoth. We know that she's strong, and she doesn't have to no-sell everyone's offense to prove that. She's got a frightening mixture of speed and agility, and she managed to showcase that here. Saori Anou came in to sort of equalize things, as well as take some gnarly bumps from Hashimoto. And Sari just feels like a star. She really does. But this match is all about Natsupoi. The kicks were crisp. There was a couple of miscommunications early on, which is to be expected. She's been out for must be close on 6 months, but I still thought this match was absolutely blistering. 4 3/4 stars, match of the weekend, incredible matchup. And I think this is the one that I would actively encourage you, of all the matches over this weekend, with the possible exception of one, this is the match I urge you to go and check out. I'm so looking forward to having Natsupoi back on this roster, because she just brings an energy that no one else seems to bring. Very excited to have her back. Very excited to see the tag matches, both with Saori Poi and with Meltier. I'm so excited at the prospect of having more Sari and more Hashimoto in Stardom as well. 4 3/4 stars, Matt.
Yeah, I didn't see it. No, I'm obviously joking. Yeah,
it was all right.
I heard it was okay. No, this was absolutely fantastic. And with everybody that's been injured, and now majority of them coming back, we have a lot of my favorites. No secret how much I love Utami and Sai Kamatani. And they came back at that Corkin show. Huge fan of Tan Nakano. She came back at the anniversary show. When Natsupoi came out and her music hit, and she hit the middle of like the Titantron, and she had a brand new robe, I literally had chills and goosebumps. And I didn't get that with Aphrodite. I didn't get that with Tam, but I got it with Natsupoi here. I think it's maybe because I finished the homework that were for the Natsupoi 2023 5-star Grand Prix the day prior, because I wasn't busy enough. So I was really, really looking forward to Natsupoi's return. And yeah, you were right. In the beginning, she was just a half a step off. And I was like, oh, I wonder how she's going to be able to not come back, but if she's going to be able to adjust. And she did immediately. I did notice as soon as she took the robe off, her neck was heavily taped up. I was like, oh boy. I hope that's just a precaution. I hope she doesn't take too many suplexes. Oh, boy, I tell you what, it was like, yeah, I hurt my neck. My neck's all taped up, but I'm fine. She was just taking, obviously, the finish with that wrist clutch, Uranagi exploder from Sari, just absolutely crazy, just dumping on her head. And Hashimoto just suplexing not only Soriano, but obviously Natsupoi as well. And Hashimoto blows me away when she does that drop step. You know what I mean, Rob? When she like literally goes to a knee, and takes and gets behind you in like a half a second. The only wrestler I've ever seen that does it quicker is Kurt Angle. And that's some good competition to be in with that one. You literally can put Hashimoto and Kurt Angle in the same breath when it comes to that drop step to get launched in a German suplex. And if you look at it from like a legit, not a kayfabe way, you're going to throw a punch and you think, oh, I'm going to land this punch. And the next thing you know, the person's behind you. And then a half a second later, you're going for a ride. That's a scary thought. And that's what Hashimoto did. I liked how they built Natsupoi going for the German suplex on Hashimoto. Like she went for it early. I'm like, it's not going to happen now. And it might not happen at all in this match, but they built it, and then she got it. And then Soriano, this match was based around Natsupoi for obvious reasons. Sari and Hashimoto. Hashimoto's first match back in Stardom in almost a year. Sari, we've been waiting for her in Stardom to come in since 2020. And obviously we'll get to what happens at the end. We've been waiting for that for so long. But let's not discount Soriano, who's the Wonder of Stardom champion. She was phenomenal in this match as well with the German suplexes. And early on, Natsupoi just getting her ass kicked. And she's like, I got to come in and save her. Then the point where Natsupoi was saving Soriano, I thought that was really great stuff. Soriano and Natsupoi, had Natsupoi not got hurt, there's a good chance they would have finished as my top tag team in all of wrestling in 2023. We just did the alternate commentary with their match with Crazy Star, which was great. I'm assuming, partner, we're going to be doing this match as an alternate commentary sometime soon. This is not only my match of the weekend, it is my favorite tag match I've seen all year. And the main event wasn't too far behind. We'll get to that in a second. It's my favorite tag match I've seen all year, not just in Stardom, but of all of wrestling. I agree with you. 4 3/4 stars. I was kind of shaking my head a little bit. I really thought, first of all, we didn't have any time limit draws. No over the top rope, nothing like that. And when they announced that the main event was going to be the 6-person tag, not the 6-person tag, but basically the 3-way tag with with all the teams, I figured this one would go to the time limit draw. The fact that we didn't have any over the top ropes or no time limit draws, I figured if you're going to do a time limit draw, do it here, because who's going to eat the pinfall? The fact that the returning Natsupoi ate the pinfall is like, okay, I'm a little confused. The match was great. We built the match around Natsupoi. She ate the pinfall. Sari got the win here. Maybe they're building Sari up. Is she coming back for something? Obviously, again, we'll talk about it. But then they did the post-match promo where by the time they all left holding hands playing Natsupoi's music, you forgot that Natsupoi got dropped on her head 2 minutes earlier because everybody was just so in love with Natsupoi. And that goes to show you how over as a wrestler she is, how over as a character she is, how over as a talent she is, and how much everybody loves Natsupoi. Remember, folks, it's not who goes over, it's who gets over. And this match is probably going to be remembered for not really Natsupoi eating the fall here, just how great this match was. That's what it's going to be remembered for in 6 months from now, in a year from now. Really, really great stuff. And then obviously genius booking we'll get into in a moment. But yeah, I agree, partner. 4 3/4 stars. My tag match of the year in all of wrestling thus far.
And then the main event, you mentioned it, brother. It's an absolutely banging match. But what did you love most about it?
Well, I want to get the one negative out of the way. So you have Azumi and Saya, they come out. Obviously, they're partners. Tam and Mayu come out. And they come out to Mayu's theme. And I wish they would have come out to Tam's theme. And I know there were a lot of people saying, Matt, I wish they would have come out to Tam's theme. Tam's theme, Twilight Dream. You're like, Matt, how am I going to feel better about this? I'm like, well, you didn't get Twilight Dream, but this weekend you can get Chasing the Dream on Amazon by my good friend, Rob Goodwin.
Oh, my God, the game worse.
By worse, you mean better. I liked how literally all three of these teams were fantastic. I mean, they started out with Mayu, Mina, and Azumi, and they go really high, fast pace. Obviously, we know the speed that Mayu can go with. Former high-speed champion, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Azumi, in my opinion, the greatest high-speed champion of all time. We've really been seeing Mina been able to pick up the pace in the start of these matches early on. I thought that was really good. Eventually, Tam kind of gets the advantage, and then Saya Kamatani and Azumi are like, nope, absolutely not. We've been teaming here for the longest, and we get some fantastic Queen's Quest teamwork. We get some great stuff with Saya and Tam, which we know they have great chemistry. We get great stuff with Saya and Mayu, which I know we're all still waiting on for that one big singles match. Hopefully we get it sooner than later, maybe for the IWGP Women's Championship. We shall see. Mina Shirakawa here was great, and I really hope they elevate here. And they did a great job making sure Micah looked good in the big spots she needed. And they made Micah and Mina look really good as a tag team as well, which I thought was very, very important. Again, you have your World of Stardom champion and your former Wonder of Stardom champion on the same faction. And the fact that they really have the least amount of tag team experience. Obviously, Mayu and Tam don't get along, but if you know your Stardom history, they were in Stars together back a handful of years ago, literally to the point where Mayu actually kidnapped Tam to be a part of Stars. Another story for another day, but really it was each individual looked good, each tag team looked good. There was no really rest. Like they would do a big move from time to time, a couple seconds for a rest, and then somebody else would come in. It wasn't all over the place that sometimes these matches can be if it's paced a little bit too fast. It got the time to tell the story, and ultimately, I thought the right person went over. You have, over 1,500 people here in the Yokohama Budokan. You need to make your red belt champion look really good. You get the 1, 2, 3, and then you have Mayu and Tam basically looking like that they're getting along, at least for now. And then we have 2 post-match angles that happen afterwards, partner. But I actually had this one at 4 3/4 stars as well. But again, I like the Natsupoi tag match a little bit better.
Yeah, you mentioned it. We've got 2 matches. So Micah took to the mic, but was then sort of upstaged by Sari making her way down to ring, where she challenged Mayu Iwatani for the IWGP Women's Championship. That has been made official. The 27th of April, All-Star Grand Queendom, Yokohama Buntai, Sari versus Mayu Iwatani. We're finally getting the match we should have gotten on the 8th of February 2020, where, of course, Sari was injured and then went to WWE, replaced with Takumi Iroha, which was also an absolutely fantastic match. But 4 years later, Matt, we are getting what will undoubtedly be a fantastic match.
At first, because Micah got the win. She was getting ready to grab the microphone, or she had the microphone. They're playing her music, and then Sari came out. And I was like, oh, that's why they put her over. They're going to do Sari and Micah. That's going to be great. And then she pivoted over and turned to Mayu. I'm like, and then it all hit me all at once. I'm like, we were supposed to get this match 4 years ago. And literally they were kind of going back and forth. And I tweeted out, do it in Philly. Do it in Philly. And then I found out it is happening in April, not in Philadelphia, but Yokohama. So close. Only a few thousand miles away, buddy. only a few thousand miles. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be great. And I had a good talk with our buddy Darren Chatton on Twitter, just talking about how excited we are for this match and the fact that they're giving this match like 6-7 weeks to build. I kind of made mention, and I kind of want to get your pick here. The fact that we are 6-7 weeks out from this match, I think it's very possible, with very smart booking, if they have Sari come in to do some shows for Stardom to build towards this match. Obviously, Sari and Natsupoi are very close friends. They mentioned that in the pre-match video and the post-match promo. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sari teaming with Natsupoi, our members of Cosmic Angels. They'll go up against Mayu and her Stars team just to build this match up. This is our first match that we're having for the Yokohama Buntai show, where they're going to try to sell 5,000 tickets. Do you think that Sari's going to be back in Stardom for maybe some multi-person tag matches to build towards that match between now and the end of April?
Oh, almost certainly. I'd be very, very surprised if we don't get some prelude tags. Maybe in the Korakuen beforehand, we'll have Sari and Chihiro Hashimoto versus Mayu and Natsupoi, or something like that, or Mayu and Hazuki. I know.
Man.
I know. As I said it, I was like, oh, that's a tasty match. Oh, give me that. And that is the match that goes to a 30-minute time limit draw. That's the match. But yes, either way, it's going to be an incredible match.
Not to interrupt you, what if we do Sari, Natsupoi, Soriano, and Tam versus Mayu, Hazuki, and Wingori?
I mean, you don't say no to that, do you? Let's be perfectly honest. Yes, I do anticipate seeing Sari in Stardom. maybe doing a couple of dates prior to that show just to hype it up as though it needed anything. Not to be upstaged though. Maika then grabs the mic back and challenges one Utami Hayashishita for the red belt. Says basically Utami hasn't got a choice in this. She wants to crush her when it comes to the 20th of March in Nagoya, which of course is the Cinderella tournament final. A week today, it will be Utami versus Maika, World of Stardom Championship match. Maika and Utami, Matt, always have really, really good matches. A fantastic one in the 5-star Grand Prix a couple of years ago. Really good title defense at Tokyo Super Wars as well in 2021. I'm excited for this with the roles completely different.
I'm excited, but I'm a little worried. I think Mike is going to go over. Obviously, we will. Well, geez, yeah. I mean, I guess we can kind of talk about it now since the show is going to happen next week. I think Mike is going to go over, and that's what I'm worried about. Utami is leaving. She's one of the big stars that is leaving to go to Rossy's promotion. The best way for her to go out is to put Maika over in the middle of the ring for a successful title defense.
This is what I
and that's
thought.
What they, yeah. And this is what they could be building to. Now, at the same time, you have to get the goddess belts off her. So and again, we mentioned, and we talked about this almost every show. I don't care who goes where, as long as everybody's happy and we're getting the best product. I just want Azumi, Saya, and Utami to stay together. Azumi is clearly staying with Stardom. I think Saya is going to be staying with Stardom because I think she's going to be pegged, especially for the end of the year, as the next ace moving forward, and rightfully so. I mean, you can't get much better than Saya Kamatani. But at the same time, it's like, what are you doing with Utami? And I thought maybe Utami might be going over based on certain rumors we heard. Again, we will speculate, but I did make mention of all that new Aphrodite and Utami merchandise that is just dropped last week, that maybe she's staying. But now it's like, if they're kind of having this match and with, maybe only about a week build, which again, obviously, if you know your Stardom history, they had great matches in the 5-star. Maika was the only wrestler other than Sherry to have 2 shots at Utami's World of Stardom Championship. Obviously, Sherry wind up winning it when Sherry had that great belt with the red belt. So we know it's going to be a great match. But now that's what I'm worried about. This is where she loses here, and then at maybe again KBS Hall, where Aphrodite lose the tag belts to Crazy Star, and is that the way that she goes out? Because it really seems like that she might have been staying. And then now it seems as we're 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks away from the end of April. Is this the way that Utami kind of goes out? I mean, a little worried. Again, if that's what she chooses to do and it's best for her and everybody and that makes her happy, God bless her, more towards her. I'm obviously going to be supporting both companies, especially supporting Utami, one of my favorite wrestlers in all of Stardom. But to break up that trio, man, if that does happen, it's going to break my heart.
I mean, again, we do want to stress that we don't know if Utami's leaving, but we know from several interviews and all of the stuff that came out of the Pacific Rim podcast interview that stars are going to be leaving. There are some stars. We are running out of time for those stars to leave. We know one is Julia. We had one more or less confirmed at Korakuen, and we've got other stars that are going to be leaving. It makes sense for one of those stars to be Utami. Putting Maika over, cementing that makes sense. I can't see who else it would be. We know Mayu's tied into a long-term contract. We know that people like Syuri looks like she's staying because she's been announced for these cards. Starlight Kid has been announced for the cards in Philadelphia. Azumi has been announced for the cards in Philadelphia. Momo Watanabe has been announced for the cards in Philadelphia. There's only Saya and Utami who haven't really been announced, who you would class as big stars, and Maika, but obviously Maika isn't going to be announced on that card until she's beaten Utami. So for me at least, and Tam hasn't been mentioned either, but I think Tam will probably be at that show. It would make sense for this to be Utami's final bout, which is devastating if true. But yeah, I reckon that's probably where we're headed with it. A fantastic opening show to the Cinderella tournament, and we moved on to night 2. As I realise we are 2 hours into this podcast and we haven't actually reviewed this night yet. 10th of March, Corrigan Hall, night 2, 1,344 people in attendance. Another very, very healthy number for Stardom, getting those numbers in Corrigan back up well over 1,000 people, which is excellent. Before we got into anything, the latest rookie, Rian, who we did see late last year, came to the ring and mentioned that she will be debuting on the 30th of March in Sendai. So we will have a brand new rookie. The results are as follows. So we open with a tag team match. The team of Mei Sakurai and Sayaka Kurora defeated the team of Hanako and a returning Aya Sakura, wrestling her first match since July and subsequently eating the pin in 9 minutes and 19 seconds with Mei Sakurai shining Buster. In a 10-woman tag team match, Stars, Hazuki Koguma, Mayu Utani, Momo Kogo, and Yuzuki defeated the Ueda Tai team of Natsukatora, Momo Watanabe, Fukigen Death, Rina and Ruaka via disqualification when Natsukatora lamped Momo Kogo with a pipe. In the first of our Cinderella tournament second round matches, Meisera ended the run of Saya Ida in 4 minutes and 45 seconds with the shooting star. No, I'm not okay. We're just going to go past it. Amisori then defeated Yuna Mizumori in 6 minutes and 9 seconds with like a thunderbolt in what was by far the best match of this night. Hanan then went on to defeat Mirai with the backdrop hold, 10 minutes and 12 seconds. Mirai, the back-to-back Cinderella tournament victor, out in the first round here. Hanan marches on to the quarterfinals. Next match saw Starlight Kid defeat Suzu Suzuki in 12 minutes and 30 seconds via over the top rope, where she will meet Hanan in that aforementioned quarterfinal. We've then got 3 non-tournament matches. 6-woman tag team match. The Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano, Shiori Ano, Natsupoi defeated the God's Eye team of Saki Kashima, Shiori, and Rani Yagami, with Natsupoi submitting Rani Yagami with the Fairy Princess in 10 minutes and 34 seconds. In your semi-main, EXV, Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Waka Sugiyama, and Xena defeated the Queen's Quest team of Lady C, Sayaka Amatani, Miyu Amasaki, and Azumi. Maika pinning Lady C with the Michinoku Driver 2. And then in your main event, Stephanie Vaca ended the 249-day reign as the New Japan Strong Women's Champion for Julia, who failed in her 10th title defense. Stephanie Vaca winning via a weird sort of cross-legged pinfall that may have been a botch, but we'll talk about it later, in 11 minutes and 3 seconds. So, Matt, I'm not going to go through every match, but the tournament matches in particular really, really hit the mark. And those 2 I mentioned, Hanan versus Mirai and Starlight Kid versus Suzu Suzuki, were real highlights of this night.
Everybody's talking about how great Hanan and Mirai was. And rightfully so. That match was great. And Corrigan was molten hot for that match, especially for Hanan. But I really enjoyed Starlight Kid and Suzu Suzuki. I thought it was just as good. And to have those matches back to back, I don't think Starlight Kid versus Suzu Suzuki is getting as much love as it should, because it's kind of being overshadowed from this phenomenal. Again, it was a great match from Hanan and Mirai. And I liked how Starlight Kid, her mask had, I don't know if you noticed it, partner, it had the glass slipper on it. I thought that was really, really cool. And again, they had the face-off with Hanan and Starlight Kid. Match number 2, it went to disqualification, but it ended with Ruaka hitting Hazuki right in the head with that vegetable crate. And again, Hazuki, nobody feeds the head better than Hazuki. And what I mean by that is go back to their the 2018 Wonder of Stardom Championship match with Momo and Hazuki. Just God bless Hazuki. I hope she's okay. But they're doing a great job building to these next round tournament matches. And to have, a solid first 3 matches and to have these 2 matches back to back really set the pace for the rest of the show. Now, Rob, I know you don't want to talk about it. Kind of have to talk about it.
No, we don't.
Hold on.
We don't have to talk about it, Matt.
Okay, well, all right. I'm telling you, this was one of the most entertaining matches I've ever seen while I was watching it. Now, let me hook that in. Can I hook that in for you?
Go on then.
All right. Now, very rare that I get to watch these matches with my wife, especially live, because live they're 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and she's asleep while my crazy ass is up watching these matches. Again, I wrestled, came home, started the show, so she watched me about half this show with me. And so it gets to Saida and Maysara, and my wife is very competitive, as you know from last week, talking about the Cinderella tournament. I told her I think we're all tied pretty much going into the second night. So I go, everybody's got Saida. We think Saida's going to go far. Rob's got Saida going to the finals. I got Saida going to the next round. I said, not only that, I said there were a lot of our listeners who private messaged me and said that how much they love the fact they have that my wife, who really doesn't watch Stardom, has Saida going far. So she said, what do you think about this one? I said, I'm pretty confident Saida is going to get the win. And then all of a sudden, the rolling star happens, and I see where Saida's face is, and I was like, yeah, she's not kicking out. This is the finish. The 3 count happens. I don't even look at my wife. I hear some obscenities, and my wife really doesn't curse. She's just really competitive. Some obscenities. And then she said, wait, was that a real match? I said, yeah. She goes, was that the real 3 count? I go, yeah. She goes, was that the Cinderella tournament match? Or that's like a preseason match. I said, no, that's a Cinderella tournament. She goes, so wait, that's it? It's one fall? Like all these, like she thought all of a sudden it was 2 out of 3 falls. She's like, that's, I said, honey, I said, Saida's eliminated. Now, Rob, 99% of us after this weekend love Stardom. Us diehard fans love Stardom because of these 2 shows, you know, how much they're drawing, the fact that we're getting all these awesome matches coming up in the next few weeks. My wife was the complete opposite. To literally the point where she's shouting that Stardom screwed over her bracket. She hates Stardom. He's the complete opposite. So literally, she's like, "I'm never watching Stardom again." I go, "Oh my!" I said, "Honey, there's still much of a bracket." So this was a good match. And I love Mason. I got it 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was really good. Obviously, we're all heartbroken that future WWE heavyweight champion Saida is knocked out of the tournament in round 2. But it was a really good match, and I was so entertaining watching this match with my wife. And the fact she even goes, well, they should restart the match or maybe have Saida win, because Saida did everything in the match. She did the clotheslines. She did the chops. All May did was fly around. And I'm like, well, isn't Will Ospreay your favorite wrestler because he does a lot of flying around? And didn't you really like Natsupoi? Natsupoi was her favorite Stardom wrestler until she joined with Tam for obvious reasons. And didn't you like Natsupoi because she did all this flying around? So now that doesn't make any sense because all she did was all this crazy spot flying around. Now you like the hard-hitting people that I do. So I just thought it was really, really fun. And that's just how, like, my wife was into this match for the 5 minutes, and she was so shocked that Saya lost that she was so mad that she literally missed and then we get to the hold on. So now we get to these next 2 matches, right, that we just talked about. Now it gets even better. I told her in the morning, I said, me and you are complete opposites when it comes to the one part of the bracket. I have Starlight Kid over Suzu, and I have Hanan over Mirai, where she has Mirai and Suzu. And I said, the way Stardom usually books, they're probably going to go for what are going to be the better matchups, which means you'll have the harder hitter of Mirai versus Suzu, or the faster style of Hanan versus Starlight Kid. Now, would Starlight Kid versus Mirai be great? Yes. Would Hanan versus Suzu be great? Yes. But probably 1 or 2 things are going to happen. So I said, you're either going to win both these or you're going to lose both of these. Now she's already in a bad mood, Rob, because Saida is out and does not like Stardom, right? So the next person out is Hanan. And of course, Hanan, and again, you guys agree on a lot. You guys are going to get along very well when you stay over my house that day before we go to Philly. Hanan comes out to her new theme, and I'm all about it. You know, wish me happy, go sunshine. And my wife's like, oh, this is bad. This theme is so bad. This is terrible. Look at that coat. Oh, she should be disqualified and just give it to Mirai. I was like, I just want to let you know, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be singing. You're going to be hearing this song again because Hanan's going to go over. Sure enough, it's a great match, and I'm doing my notes. Match is over. Crowd's crazy hot. I turn over, and she's asleep. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God she's asleep. So I didn't tell her until the next day that she lost 3 in a row. She lost 3 in a row and was none too thrilled. And it really just made for just an entertaining 24 hours for me, partner.
I can imagine. And that sort of lessened the blow, I suppose, of Saida being shafted out of
See,
a
I told you.
quarterfinal
I
place.
told you. I told you feel better.
I did love the Starlight Kid and Suzu Suzuki match, definitely. I thought it was great. I love the fact that sort of Suzu Suzuki started patronizing Starlight Kid and stealing her moves. She can do a very, very good standing moonsault, which is quite cool. But Starlight Kid then returned the favor, which I thought added a little bit of venom to the match. The last couple of minutes were really, really good. I just think the ending came a little bit out of nowhere, but that is a minor, minor gripe. Hanan and Mirai, the crowd were on fire for this match. It was such a good babyface performance from Hanan, but I thought Mirai played the sort of, it wasn't a heel, it was just sort of a more powerful, dominant character, and I thought she played it to a T. Mirai versus Hanan, I gave 4.25. Starlight Kid versus Suzu, I gave 4 stars. Definitely the 2 best matches of this night. And this is where we get a little bit of an insight into who else might be leaving, with Mirai telling us that she hasn't got long left, which is pretty much the biggest indicator that Mirai is also on her way out, Matt.
Yeah, and again, just to kind of touch upon how great Mirai was in this match, if you go back and look at the finish, she did a great job making sure that she took those suplexes as violently as possible to make Hanan look like $1 million. And you can see after the match, Hanan was very much appreciated to the former 2-time winner of this tournament and the former Wonder of Stardom champion. Yeah, it was rumored that some champions, current champions, are going to be on their way out, and looks like Mirai is on her way out. I hope what she meant by that is she doesn't have much time left in Stardom, and not much, and that's not her saying that she's going to retire. I'm assuming that's what it was. I had a few people asking, like, you think she's going to retire? I'm like, no, I think that she's just saying she doesn't have much time left in Stardom, and she will be heading over to the new Rossy Vice promotion, as we adequately called it. So, yeah, sorry to see her go, but that's obviously going to be a good get for Rossy, and a good way to start his company with just a phenomenal talent that is Mirai. And it might be a good fit for Mirai, because I think Mirai was always going to be somebody that is, I think she might have hit her ceiling with Stardom. as talented as she is, I just don't see her getting the Wonder of Stardom championship back and getting a, nice long Saya Kamatani, Momo Watanabe-esque run with it. And I don't think she'll ever hold the World of Stardom championship. I think she's kind of hit where she needed to hit. She's won this tournament, twice before. So, might be a good time for her to leave, and then who knows, in a year or two she might be come back. Who knows what the future holds? But ultimately, Mirai is a phenomenal talent, and it doesn't matter what company she goes to, whether it be Rossy's company, whether it be Stardom, whether she wants to do freelance work. She's just a great talent, and she'll land on her feet wherever she goes.
Completely agree. And then I want to talk about the main event. I know the chances are you will want to talk about a couple of the other matches as well, but this main event, I didn't love it. It was a good match, don't get me wrong. There were flashes of some real exciting wrestling, but it felt quite rushed to me. And the ending came a little bit out of nowhere, and I'm not convinced that it wasn't a botch, Matt. And I know you don't like the word botch, but I'm not convinced it wasn't a mistake, because for a start, Julia's shoulder was about as off the mat as you can possibly get. And everyone, including Stephanie Vaca, looked a little bit surprised that it was the 3 count.
I watched this match twice because I was like, I'm not sure. Maybe they kind of just want Julia to look strong. They don't want her eating too many L's on her way out, just because they're kind of like, we're trying to get as much as Julia on the way out as we can, the great matches that she's giving. But then if you go back and watch it, Steph Vaca's finisher is the package pile driver. She teased it twice here, which tells me obviously she's meant to go over. You're in the main event, Cork and Hall, in front of pretty much a sold out crowd against a huge star like Julia. If you're going to go for the New Japan Strong Championship, if you're going to go over, go over. Go over, especially when you're teasing one of your big moves, one of your big finishes, the package pile driver, twice in this match, and it doesn't get hit. It'd be one thing if she hit it and then she couldn't make the cover because she was beat up, or she hit it and Julia got her foot on the rope, or even if Julia kicked out. But like the fact that she didn't hit it at all in this match in front of this jam-packed crowd, probably Steph Vaca one of her big, other than the Mercedes match, probably the biggest match in her career. You're in a legendary venue in Cork and Hall up against a huge star in Julia, and you're not going to hit your big move, especially again when you teased it and built it up twice in this match. So yeah, I see your point there, and the fact it only went 11 minutes. I think maybe it was supposed to go maybe a little bit longer. I thought it was really cool how she got into it. Like she hit the DDT and she hit it so hard that the psychology is that Julia sprung up, like her head sprung up, and she was like dazed and dizzy. And then Steph Vacker rolled her up and was able to cross the legs. I think they call it like a shrimp style roll up. And then I was like, oh, this is a cool little falsie. And then you see Julia's shoulder get up, and then the 3 count happens. And again, I don't like the word botch. I'll call it an error. Again, maybe this was the finish, but based on the fact that we teased the package pile driver as much as we did and we built to it and we didn't get the payoff, and the fact that this only went 11 minutes in the main event of a pay-per-view Cork and Hall leads me to believe, and I could be wrong, that this was not supposed to be the finish. I thought it was a really good match that kind of just abruptly ended. I actually gave it 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a great match. I thought these two had really, really good chemistry. I thought there was some violent stuff back and forth with the forearms, the headbutts, the running knee, the G trigger from Julia. I thought really good stuff. Julia hit the top rope butterfly suplex. I thought that was great. I like how she locked in the triangle choke and then transitioned to the Bianca, and Steph Vacker looked like she was, getting ready to verbally tap out. I really liked that there. Again, it just seemed like this finish kind of came out of nowhere. And then it really seemed like post-match, there was kind of some words. And to me, it looked like Julia wanted to grab the belt and put it on Steph Vacker. And Steph wanted nothing to do with it. So it did seem a little bit confusing, not only in the final moments of the actual match, but what happened post-match as well.
Yeah, it was all a bit odd. To me, at least, it didn't feel like they had much chemistry, and it's a shame, really, because as I've mentioned, Julia's held this belt for 249 days, has defended it 9 times, has had some really good matches, but ultimately, I feel like this was sort of a whimper, and I do understand that obviously we are trying to get the belt off Julia as she prepares to leave Stardom, and I do think that Stephanie Vacker is probably the best person to take it off her. I've seen her have fantastic matches. Just for me, this wasn't one of them. Post-match, Oedo Tai run in, beat up Julia, sort of telling her, well, you're leaving now and you've lost your title, so what use are you? Which is highly ironic considering that Natsuko bowed to her not too long ago. But a load of the Stardom wrestlers come in and make the save, including, Matt, Tam Nakano, which was very interesting. Tam then helped Julia to the back, where they seem to have put their fiery rivalry on the back burner.
Again, this is just great booking from Stardom. It's one thing when you have this roster, right? And you have these new bookers, and it's like, it's still going to be good regardless because you can put this talent anywhere. But the fact that we got 2 built-in matches, championship matches, coming off the show that happened earlier, the night one of the Cinderella, the fact they're building up round two of the Cinderella tour with just little stare off or little Ruaka smacking Hazuki in the head with the crate. And the fact that out of nowhere, like not only do you have an Oedo Tai jump on Julia to send Julia out of Cork and Hall as a member of the Stardom roster, I'm assuming Rossy is going to be running shows in Cork and Hall. So you're going to see Julia wrestling in there quite a bit between now and the end of the summer. Basically to beat her up, almost throwing her out of Cork and Hall. It's like, who's going to make the save? There's no more DDM. And it would kind of make sense maybe if Micah comes in because, former member of DDM, and she brings Mina with her as well to make the save. Or if they just left it with heat and just left her laying. Or maybe if Steph Vacker is going to be not staying in Stardom, but and again, I'm going to tag you in on this one in a moment. I just want your opinion. You think now that Steph Vacker is New Japan Strong Champion, if you're going to see her in Stardom more, and I think that we are. But you could have had her left her laying and then have Steph Vacker be a member of Oedo Tai. I thought that would have been really cool because she plays that kind of ferocious heel as a really good role. But then out of nowhere, you have Tam make the save, and you're like, wait a minute. And it's not like Tam has really beef with Oedo Tai. I mean, I guess kind of everybody does. But you're like, she comes and makes the save, and now we're going to be getting one of these tag matches coming up on the next week or so. And then it looks like Julia's final match in Stardom is going to be a week from today. against Tom Nakano. I mean, what a great way. Obviously, we wanted the Mercedes match in Stardom. We're not getting. We all wanted the Utami match in Stardom. Probably not getting it, but to bookend a story, and if we got those matches, there really wouldn't be much of a story. Just be a great match. But to bookend the most violent feud in the history of Stardom, in my opinion, to end it here, not only end it here, but kind of end it more of on a friendship. I think that's just great booking from the new brass at Stardom, Rob.
Yeah, and I think with the respect that they have for each other, I think you've got the potential to have a very, very explosive final act in their feud together, and I think that's great. They did, I think Julia tried to put the belt on Stephanie Vaca, and there was a miscommunication there as well. But overall, I'm glad that we got the belt onto Stephanie Vaca and then we pivoted to Julia and Tam, because that, if Julia's leaving, she's a star. You want to get as much as you possibly can out of her. What has Julia's best feud been in Stardom? Tam Nakano. To give that singles match one more run round makes perfect sense. And I do like the way that this match, the temptation could be there to just run the match back as just another match where these two beat the living Jesus out of each other because they hate each other. But no, instead we're going to get that subtle difference in the fact that, yes, we respect each other. Okay? We're still going to hurt each other, but we respect each other. And I like that subtle difference. It's going to make this match stand out of their trilogy of fantastic matches that we know that they've already had. But yeah, Matt, that brings us to the end of our pay-per-view reviews, and so far we have set up some interesting quarterfinals. But before we get into our show previews, before we talk about these quarterfinals, Matt, do you know what time it is?
Oh, I am so excited for this time, my man. I am so excited. Rob Goodwin, would it be Vader time or Io and Kairi watch?
It's time. It's Io and Kairi watch time, my friend.
All right, we have two segments. We have SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. SmackDown, there really wasn't too much as we were building to Bayley versus one Io Shirai at WrestleMania, Philly Mania, hashtag Joshi Mania. They have Bayley doing a sit-down interview basically saying that she was blindsided by all the betrayal. She knew that there was problems with all members of Damage Control, but never thought it would get this bad. And she just looks very, very sad, like a little girl that lost her puppy. And then they pan back to another backstage segment where Naomi and Bianca Belair watch this segment. And Bianca says to Naomi, you really feel bad for Bayley, don't you? He goes, I really do. I feel bad for her. I just feel bad that everybody turned on her like that. And then Bianca says, you do realize what Bayley's done over the last 3 or 4 years, right? Like, you shouldn't feel bad for her. And then Bianca leaves, and then you can see Naomi just still has concerns for Bayley. So again, we're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be on Bayley's side because she's on a 4-on-1 war with Damage Control. Clearly, it looks like they're going to set up Naomi to be on Bayley's side. So good stuff there. And then we get another backstage segment with the members of Damage Control where basically Dakota Kai says that she was the mastermind behind everything going on. Then Kairi says in Japanese, which then is translated on the screen, saying, Bayley, if you were so smart, you should have seen this coming and you didn't. So you're nowhere near as smart as Dakota. And then Io says in Japanese, which is translated on the screen, that it was never about Bayley. Ever since day one, when they formed Damage Control a year ago, it was always about Io's era. And then I yelled, damn right it is. Damn right it is. So that's basically all that we got from SmackDown. And hopefully we're seeing some more stuff in the next few weeks to build up towards, because we haven't seen Io in the ring, and it seems like in a month. So, again, we got to give all the time to The Rock's 30-minute promos. Neither here nor there. The Rock is a giant. The Rock is a giant star, though. I mean, you can't deny it. Now, we go to Monday Night Raw, which I'm so excited when they announced this match last week. We have a tag team championship match with the champions, Kairi and Asuka, the Kabuki Warriors, taking on the team of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Now, Rob Goodwin, it's no secret to anybody that I'm a huge fan of, obviously, Kairi and Asuka. I'm a huge fan of Shayna Baszler. I thought she was great when her time in Stardom. And obviously, she has that MMA background. She's fought in the UFC before. She was on The Ultimate Fighter. She does that shoot style that I absolutely love. Zoe Stark, I've always enjoyed her stuff in NXT. Fell off a little bit when she went to the main roster, but she stole the show for me in the Royal Rumble just this past January. I thought that she was great, and her and Shayna have really good chemistry together, considering the fact they have two different styles. So match starts, and Asuka and Zoe, they start off almost like a mini high-speed match. Some really fun stuff back and forth. Eventually, Zoe tags out to Shayna, and Shayna and Asuka, they just wail on each other. Forearm kick. Yes, the stuff that I love in this match. Eventually, Kyrie comes in to try to do a little 2-on-1 advantage to Shayna. That only lasts a little bit as Zoe comes in with her explosive offense. Both the champions retreat to the floor, but Zoe Stark does a springboard plancha to the floor. Really good stuff there. Eventually, Zoe's just running really, really hot on the champions. She's getting all of her stuff in. She goes for a superplex onto Kyrie, and a move we haven't seen Kyrie do in quite some time. Kyrie stops the superplex and hits the Marine Spike. So I thought that was cool. I don't think she's done that since she's been back in the WWE. And Zoe Stark took that properly on her neck, but in a safe way. So some really, really good stuff there. We do have the champs do their patented sliding D and running kick combination to Shayna Baszler. Eventually, Zoe Stark is able to get up back on the champions. Zoe escapes the assisted insane elbow spot that the champs have been doing for quite some time. She hits the Z360, which is basically she picks you up, throws you in the air, and then hits you with a big knee. And then Shayna Baszler comes in with a running knee of her own because she is the legal person. She gets a 2.9 count on Kyrie when Asuka breaks up the pinfall. Zoe Stark goes again for another plancha to the floor, but in the words of Gorilla Monsoon, she goes to the well one too many times as Asuka moves and Zoe Stark eats the canvas. Back in the ring, we see Shayna Baszler locking in the Careful clutch, the rear naked choke, which is her finish. But as she's backing up towards the ropes, Dakota Kai grabs Shayna's leg, thus having her break up the hold. She gets easily distracted. When she turns around, she eats the cutlass from Kyrie, and then a huge Mirko Krokop style head kick from Asuka. Eventually, the champs hit the assisted insane elbow for the 3 count, finishing what I thought was one of the greatest WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match in quite some time. Now, by no means is this, the best Aphrodite tag match. But as far as a WWE style match goes, this was fantastic. And if you've not seen this match and you have the ability to watch it, whether it's on Peacock or if you have it on your DVR or whatever, or if you get on YouTube, I highly recommend. I think it only goes about 12 minutes, but it's nonstop action. It's a great job highlighting Kyrie and Asuka. Great match.
Beautiful roundup as always, Mr. Turner. Before we depart, it's time to look at what is happening next week. So Stardom have got shows running on Saturday and Sunday again. The full card has been announced for the show on the 16th, and the show in the 16th, is in Himeji. Let's go with that. And the card is as follows. So we've got a 3-ways trio match with the Stars team of Mayu Koguma and Yuzuki taking on the Uedatai team of Natsu Katora, Starlight Kid, and Momo Watanabe, and the team of Julia Suzuki and Tam Nakano. So we are seeing them team together. 6-woman tag sees the EXV team of Maika, Mina, and Hanako taking on the Queen's Quest team of Utami, who is returning from ill health, Sai Kamatani, and Lady C. 8-woman tag team match, something we didn't talk about during our pay-per-view review, is that Aya Sakura is now a member of Cosmic Angels as well, or is auditioning to become a member of Cosmic Angels, which didn't go down well with Sayaka Kurora. She joins Natsupoi, Sayori Ano, and Yuna Mizumori in taking on the God's Eye team of Shiori Mirai, Misori, and Saki Kashima. Wingori, then Sayurida and Hanan are taking on Meisera and Rana Yagami. And we've then got a host of second round Cinderella tournament matches. Mei Sakurai and her phenomenal ever-growing hat taking on Miyu Amasaki. Azumi versus Sayaka Kurora. Hazuki versus Ruaka. And Waka Tsukiyama taking on Xena in an EXV Civil War match. Matt, what are we thinking about that card from the 16th then?
That's a damn loaded card between what I'd probably be the main event with Tam teaming with Julia. And then you have obviously Wingori in action, which is always good. And of course, Queen's Quest EXV, that should be really good because you have Aphrodite and Lady C together taking on Hanako, Mina, and Micah. So obviously that's going to build towards Micah versus Utami. I think that's going to be the main crux of that match. And then you have these really, really good, these really solid matches in the Cinderella tournament. And to the fine folks over at Stardom World, if you're listening, we know that you are, fingers crossed, please get that show up ASAP. I'm assuming both these shows, because they are Cinderella tournament matches, and it's going to lead into the pay-per-view. I would not be shocked to see these two shows both get dropped within a 24-hour time period. Again, that's our hope. We've seen that Stardom has upped the production quality all around, so hopefully that's what happens. But this card looks absolutely loaded, my friend. Not only the Cinderella tournament matches, as we're kind of start to phase out who we're going to see in that Final Four, but those matches built around it. Again, kudos to Stardom for another stacked show.
Absolutely. And that follows, or should I say that is followed by a show the next day, the 17th, from Shiga Prefectural Cultural Industry Exchange Center in Yonohara City in Maibara. So that card is only half a card at the moment because obviously the rest of the card is dependent on some of the results from Saturday. So we won't get a full card until that day. However, these are the Cinderella Tournament quarterfinals with Hanan versus Starlight Kid and Meisera versus Amisori. We've then got the winner of Wakasukiyama and Xena taking on the winner of Hazuki and Ruaka. I do probably think that's going to be Xena versus Hazuki. And then the winner of Azumi and Sayaka Kurora taking on the winner of Mei Sakurai and Miyu Amasaki. Again, I do anticipate that being Azumi versus Miyu Amasaki. Those are the only matches we've got announced for the show in Maibara. But Matt, again, the quarterfinals looking very tasty, in particular that Hanan versus Starlight Kid match. And I do think if Hanan beats Starlight Kid, she wins the tournament. Bold claim, I know, but I think if Starlight Kid goes through, Hazuki's for the win. I think if Hanan beats Starlight Kid, Hanan wins.
Yeah, I agree. And I know you have Hanan as your overall winner. And I know I have Hazuki over Azumi. And I know Karen has Azumi Hazuki, and so does Amber. But just looking at, and I think me and you were texting back and forth the other day, just looking back at the way that this is being built, the way that Hanan's being built, the way the tournament is almost being built around her. Again, molten hot Corkin crowd, clearly the most over person on that show. I think you got to go with the hot hand. I think it really does look like it's Hanan. Again, I'm locked in Hazuki, and obviously, I'm not going to go back on my prediction. Would I be upset if Hanan wins? Yes and no. Yes, because I want to see Hazuki and Azumi win the tournament, but at the same time, Hanan wins the tournament. It'll put a smile on my face for two main reasons. Number one, it'd be great to see Hanan, get her just due at just 19 years old and win the second biggest tournament in Stardom history. And the main reason why it would make me happy to see Hanan win the tournament is my good friend, Rob Goodwin, the author of the book, Chasing the Dream, available this Saturday on Amazon.com, finally gets a major prediction right since he started this podcast some 4 years ago.
Yes, it would be a fine day. I'll be honest, we'll probably start the podcast with a Hanan theme. Just the thought of that happening. Watch, Starlight Kid will beat her in 6 minutes or something now. But yes, that is where we are. And then, of course, on the 20th of March, we have got the tournament final, the Cinderella tournament final. It probably will be a pay-per-view. It's going to be from Nagoya International Convention Center Event Hall. Both semi-finals and the final will be on this show, as well as the red belt match between Utami and Micah, though that has not been confirmed as of yet. Tickets are selling incredibly well for this show, and I anticipate this show being very, very, very well sold by the time we get to it. Hopefully next week, As I've already mentioned, with the tournament being on the day we usually record, we will try and record on the 21st instead and release it on the 21st, just so that our podcast isn't instantly dated by making predictions for it. But Matt Turner, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, I think it's about time we let these good people go back about their daily lives.
I just want to say this was awesome, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too, my friend. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, Philly Mania is happening. Myself and Matt will be at Jack's Tap Room, where we will be doing a live version of the Stardom cast immediately following the Stardom show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and join us. It'll be completely free, 5 minutes away from the ECW arena. We honestly cannot wait just to see loads of you there, or any of you there. We're very much looking forward to it. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. It really, really, really helps the podcast out. If you are a Patreon subscriber, thank you so much. If you aren't, consider checking it out. You can join for as little as $1, where you'll get bonus episodes and all of our free podcasts early and ad free as well. You can follow us on all the social medias at the Stardom Cast. You can talk to me on Twitter at Real Rob Goodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off.
Folks, don't forget, as Rob has already said a few times on this podcast, programming note, we're going to be recording on Thursday of next week, so this way we can review the final 3 nights of the Cinderella tournament. So for Patreon listeners, you're going to be getting that show later on Thursday, and then it'll drop the normal time on Friday. So again, I just want to reiterate that the show is going to be coming out later for the Patreon members for obvious reasons, so we can review the final 3 nights of the Cinderella tournament. And we thank you for your understanding. Folks, questions, comments, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF, on the Instagram and or the Twitter. Don't forget, if you want to get a hold of me via email, perfectly fine as well. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fantastic episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do it without you, because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because we're all together. Everybody's different. Everybody's special.